Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rewind, Second Wind's brand new entertainment podcast, all about the latest in movies, TV, anime, and Quibbies. I didn't tell you guys, we're talking about Quibbies today. This is episode number 1 for Tuesday, July 9th, 2024. My name is Marty Sliva, and I am thrilled to be joined by Darren Mooney, Jack Packard, and producer Eric. Guys, we did it. It only took about 9 months, but we got our entertainment podcast back up.
Well, I had to watch every episode of Captain Jack Sparrow House to be prepared for this. And was it Murder House Flippers or Dismantled?
Yeah. All of our favorite Quibbies. You know why they were good? Because they were vertical, and all good art is vertical. Yeah.
No, and I'm really, the thing I'm most excited about is like this first episode, obviously, like we're doing a lot of catch up. Mm-hmm. I can't wait to get deep into talk of the Amazon produced J-Lo starring Shotgun Wedding. I thought it was delightful. I think we're going to get deep into some of those production notes as we move on, but it's like overall, Jennifer Coolidge is there, Cheech Marinan, like these.
Talk about Mother as well, presumably, and Atlas, like the J-Lo cinematic universe. Really.
Yeah.
The new, I definitely watched the new Emma Roberts movie, Space Cadet, that one of my streaming services insists I want to watch. I'm like, I really don't. You should know I do not want to watch this movie. But yeah, welcome everyone. Welcome to the first episode of the Rewind. As Jack alluded to, this episode is just going to be kind of a catch up on the media we've been consuming in 2024. A lot of the stuff we've liked. You know, we're going to be talking about Furiosa. We'll be talking about Dune. We'll be talking about, stuff for those of us who've seen stuff like House of the Dragon and The Bear, Delicious in Dungeons. So just a catch up, stuff we've enjoyed this year, and obviously going forward. So the show on its whole is going to be every other week at the start. So it'll be every other Tuesday at this time slot. We'll be on YouTube. There'll be an audio version as well. And then we'll kind of have a rotating cast for this. We'll have, there'll be Tuesdays. Darren's going to be at screenings. There's going to be Tuesdays. I'm not going to be here the next episode. But we have a deep bench, which is going to make this great. We can bring experts on for hit films like Despicable Me 4. Do you think anyone on staff saw Despicable Me 4?
I haven't seen Despicable Me 4, and it's my job to watch movies like Despicable Me 4. Like it's my one job in Second Wind.
Yeah.
And I flunked it.
I'm shocked it didn't premiere at Cannes at the Cannes Film Festival.
Yeah.
I think those of us who would see Despicable Me 4 don't want to talk about it. I think so. No matter what,
for fear of spoilers, we don't want to spoil the first act twist. Yeah,
the Gruaverse, if you will.
I mean, I see the poster of it, which is a giant minion, looks like it's chewing a smaller minion, and I'm like, this looks like it could be some sort of art house independent French movie.
Yeah,
like
and they
depression.
had that. They had it projected. They had it projected on the outside of the Orb in Vegas, which looked very exciting.
With the mouth.
When are you going to go to Vegas to see a movie and report on it in the Orb?
Let's set that as like a stretch goal. I was wondering today, like, could we do Toronto? Could the three of us do Toronto as a stretch goal? Some absurd level of like stretch goal, but like, could we do it? Would that be
Toronto's doable?
Yeah, that's a quick flight for Jack and I.
The Toronto Film Fest?
That was the pitch there. Yeah, I wasn't going to track you guys to Venice.
I mean, if you could, Jack and I are going to say no to Venice.
No, we'll go to Toronto. That'll be great. Marty and I could drive to Toronto.
There you go. Make a little, as long as we expense gas, make a little road trip vlogs out of it.
Road trip vlog.
And as Darren was mentioning, of course, this show, along with everything else we do, including our video essays, our columns, our streams, everything is funded by your incredible support on places like Patreon, larger donations on Ko-Fi, and of course your super chats throughout the entirety of the show, which we already have a ton of. And I want to go over just a couple of them at the start. There's no direct. What you were a little worried about that? No, there's no direct like veering us off.
Look what Eric has done to me.
Look at his face.
Oh, you're a little minion.
Yeah, there he is.
Yeah, Darren's Eric's like a little goblin. I mean, he's a little goblin. He took my fan on Windbreaker and he built a larger one and just had it next to me as Marty's #1 fan. It's very strange. I love it.
I know we're going with Jack as a minion. He also looks like he could be an engineer in like Mad Max. Like that is also what he could have been.
He's the organic mechanic.
He could have been like, yeah.
Yes.
I feel like Jack, you would be our organic mechanic. Darren, obviously, you're our history man. And I'm like a little bit of Scrotus and a little bit of Rectus. Scrotus in the bed, Scrotus in the streets, but a Rectus in the sheets.
Congratulations.
Those are the Trump twins, right? Those are the Trump twins, right? That's what those characters are, right?
I feel like Scrotus is somehow more competent than Donald Jr.
We'll get into that when you talk about The Apprentice later on. Look at that. We'll segue. But going over those super chats right at the top. Thank you so much. Water Hazard, 12 hours in advance this super chat. I put up the video at like 10 o'clock last night at like 10:03. $5 donut from Water Hazard. I've been anticipating this moment for longer than I can remember. The movie gang is back. Yeah. So much Water Hazard. Jason Tudor. Oh, yeah. And of course, if you're new to Second Wind, so we had a long-running podcast over at The Escapist called The Recap, where every week it was usually Darren, myself, Frost, but Jack, you were on. We just gabbed about movies and TV and that. So this is the spiritual successor of that. There you go. The Legacy sequel of that.
We love movies and TVs and pop culture.
And Quibbies. It was Yahtzee called me out yesterday when I said an entertainment podcast, and he was like, why are games not included in entertainment when we talk about entertainment? I was like, that's a really good point, honestly, because I don't know. Like, if I say the term, at least in this job, if I say this is an entertainment podcast, I think it's implied we're not talking about games.
Right. Because everything else that like Second Wind does is video game based.
No, sure.
You don't need to say the like entertainment minus video game.
But even if you say the entertainment industry, you are not picturing video games. Because I think video games are so, which by the way, I don't want to get too deep into the philosophical elements of this, but video games are so inherently different as a medium that they are not considered just entertainment. They are interactive entertainment, friend.
And it's a marriage of, I guess, the tech sector and of art, right?
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Yeah, because goodness knows that is not happening in film or television or anything like that. Aside from our good friends at Quibi. Quibi's the only company doing that.
Besides a few failed Netflix experiments, no one is doing interactive storytelling. Yeah.
Listen, you remember them? Yeah,
I do.
No one. No, we don't remember them. Wasn't it like an episode of Bandersnatch and then Bandersnatch? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Bandersnatch had what's his name in it? It Adam Warlock, right?
It had Adam Warlock. It also had the lead character from Dunkirk, and it's somebody else in there. I think there was a girl.
There was probably a third actor in that movie.
Yeah,
there had to have been a girl in that movie. Jason Tudor with a $5 Canadian dono. Thank you so much. Finally, I was beginning to think that this had the same chance of happening as Half-Life 3. Even better, I'm on vacation, so you can watch without guilt. Jason, thank you so much. I hope you're having a great vacation. Even if you're not on vacation, if you're at work, if you're at like an important, like a town hall meeting or a funeral, you can watch this without shame.
Yeah.
You know, your loved one who sadly passed away at their funeral, they would want you to be happy listening to me read off super chats.
If you could hook that up to the Bluetooth speaker system as well, I think that would really.
Yeah. I think that would be great. No one wants to hear organ.
Yeah.
Like, you know what instrument I'm never hankering for? Organ.
Yeah, you know, this really needs an organ solo.
Counterpoint, Marty. I don't want to derail the podcast immediately. Here in the greater Milwaukee area, we have a pizzeria called Organ Piper.
Okay.
It is a cheap pizzeria arcade that has a full organ. The entire building is an organ. And they play cover songs while you eat your cheap pizza. And it is delightful, one time and one time only.
It is insane, because I assume you're going to talk about the organ at the Oriental Theater that plays. And it's just weird to me that Milwaukee has two organs.
Yeah.
I mean, it might have even more.
Yeah, we
it's
are
like lungs. We got two organs. But what I will say is, like, I feel like In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida covers the maximum amount of organ that anybody needs at any given moment.
Yeah.
Like a full 27-minute cut of In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. That's
Yeah.
enough organ for like human history, I feel.
Yeah. In the Garden of Eden by Iron Butterfly.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. This sounds like rock and or roll.
Beautiful. Tommy H, welcome to the tip jar. Thank you so much, Tommy H. John Blee, been a member for 6 months, upgraded to sponsor-free videos. I've waited so long for this. Oh no, my bonitis. It's acting up. My only regret in life is not watching the rewind and having bonitis. was a bonitis joke. Titan Uranus with a $5 dono. Thank you so much, Mr. Uranus. We'll sadly be asleep during this. Yesterday we broke the wind. Today we shall wind again, or we rewind if you prefer. It will truly be our second wind.
I like that. This is the rewind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rewind. Quintuple A with a $50 dono. That'll get us a couple gallons of gas. We are so back. Thank you so much. Couple Magimix with 10 pounders. Hell yeah, I've been looking forward to this for weeks. Thank you so much, Magimix. Rexalius, $10 dono. Sadly, we'll have to catch you on VOD, but I can't wait to see what the unholy fusion of Midwest Madness and the Star Trek Salamander and Candle Sex Boy will result in. Which one of you is the Star Trek Salamander? Which one of you is the Candle Sex Boy?
We were both involved in that conversation with
I was going to say,
yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
That's right. Star Trek episodes. Voyager had the famous
Threshold.
They devolve into salamanders, and
because
Next Generation,
they go too fast. It's very important to stress the reason why they devolve is because they go too fast.
They went too fast, and they had salamander sex, and then of course Beverly Crusher had sex with a candle ghost in Star Trek.
Her grandmother's candle ghost, by the way, to be clear, like a hand me down.
Well, it was her grandmother's hand-me ghost boyfriend.
Yeah.
Like, she didn't have sex with her grandmother. She had sex with her grandmother's ghost boyfriend.
Candle,
Also,
I
just
realize this is like a live video for an audience, right?
Yeah. No, we're here. We're doing this. This is that was obviously more important. I'm a googly-eyed alien. Eric is having too much fun with me and only me. Okay, so here is, by the way, the funding goal is not Marty and I driving to Toronto. It's Darren flying to Milwaukee so the three of us can make the 9-hour and 3 drive to Toronto. Just putting that out there. 3-person road trip.
Did you look up 9 hour and 3 minutes, or did you just know that? Because if you knew that, that's incredible.
That's impressive. Somebody wants to go to Toronto.
Googled that. We would get to take the ferry across Lake Michigan. That would be fun.
Oh, yeah.
So,
go up to Manitowoc, maybe?
Go up to Manitowoc, go through Michigan. Oh, it'd be lovely. It'd be lovely.
Darren loves Michigan. What's your favorite Michigan movie, Darren? You can't say 8 Mile. Beverly Hills Cop.
Damn it!
Really a Michigan movie.
You were
right?
you were so fast. I was like, I
rewatched all the Beverly Hills Cop movies recently. You know what? The third one? Oh, extremely bad. That's a very bad movie. Holy smokes.
I mean, I would argue everyone except the first one and like the appearance of the second one. Like, if you separate how good the second one looks from the movie itself, the movie is bad. But I would say Only Lovers Left Alive is the answer to the Detroit question.
Oh,
RoboCop.
A good one. Oh, that's also a good one.
Oh, boom.
Detroit might have the best quality movies, and It Follows. Isn't that take place in Detroit?
Yeah,
Michigan.
Yeah, like
starring the star Longlegs. Melissa Longlegs. I don't know what her name is.
Yeah, her character in the movie Longlegs is not. That would be quite impressive. Detective Longlegs.
Detective Melissa Longlegs.
Ironically, she's average height.
The name's kind of a goof. You get it. Yeah. Urban M with 100 Polish zloty. Thank you so much, Urban M. Okay, now we are back. Hell yeah.
That's true.
Nihilist Enthusiast with a $2 dono. Thank you so much. Jack, you're looking amazing. Getting some sun recently. I think that might have been a goof on the Minion.
On the Minions.
That was probably the Minion, or my camera is more orange than everyone else's. But
I was very red the other day. Remember that?
Yeah,
I think it was during Elden Ring. I don't know what was going on with me. Spicy Dot. Welcome back, Spicy Dot, with a $5 dono. Jack and Marty road trip. My hopes of a radio morning show with them grow. Darren's the only one of us that's on terrestrial radio still, right?
Right.
Yes, because I am so old and I live in Ireland where we still have radio. It still exists as a concept, but yes.
I just like that you are tapping into a different audience, an important audience.
I will say, last weekend they had to cut me short because I insisted on doing the Maxine review in the voice of Kevin Bacon from Maxine.
And what is that voice?
My employer is a very powerful man. The 3-star movie with Mr. Ty West. Universal Studio backlot is the 3rd credited lead. Past ain't finished with her.
Wonderful.
It's incredible.
Big week for Bacon between Maxine and Beverly Hills Cop 4, where he's introduced and immediately you're like, he's clearly the bad guy, right? And then turns out he's the bad guy.
Both of those movies. Like, again, Bacon makes everything better. There is no meal that is not improved with Bacon.
Agreed. Hard agree.
Stir of Echoes? What a movie. Y'all ever see Stir of Echoes? There was like a dead body in his basement.
Hollow Man, masterpiece, unequivocal masterpiece.
Yeah, he's a real sex pest in that movie. I didn't like him. He's a bad guy.
That's a hot take, Marty. Because I feel like the movie is entirely on his side.
It's called The Hollow Man. It's not called like the poor.
Yeah.
George Lucas in the tip jar for 7 months. Thank you so much, George. Caleb Dennis, $5 dono. Can't imagine a better occasion for my first super chat. Love to hear more from Darren and Jack and Marty too, I guess. Long live Second Wind. Appreciate it, Caleb. Yeah. Sean Harriman, hashtag get Darren and Marty to the sphere. Here's more monies to expensive Vegas trip. I'd say Darren Aronofsky's Postcards from Earth was worth the trip, or the Eagles. Do you think you're talking about the band, the Eagles? Like Hotel California's the Eagles?
Or maybe there's just good avian wildlife out there.
A lot of birds in Vegas. Sovereign with a £5 dono or €5 dono. Thank you so much. I've been looking forward to this. Now I can finally have a reason to wake up on a Tuesday. Here's a $5. Now entertain me, gentlemen. It is our honor. Luis Perez with a $5 dono. Just wanted to say hello and congrats on the new podcast. Thank you so much. Biscuits and BBQ with a $5 dono. This is Gross Point Blank Erasure, and I won't have it. I haven't watched Gross Point Blank in a long time.
That is that must be
Gross Point, which is like I think
Michigan. You know,
okay, Michigan adjacent.
Michigan adjacent. Okay. Gross Point Blank, a wonderful film, a very formative movie for me. You know, it was that perfect amount of kind of like nihilism that speaks to our particular generation. And anytime Dan Aykroyd can get murdered by a television, like the poignancy of that, if you think about it.
Yeah. While advocating for the unionizing of hitmen. What is B-Fest? People seem to be mentioning B-Fest a lot in the chat. What is B-Fest?
I don't... So B-Fest, I've been to B-Fest once, which is something in northern Illinois, you know, just a few hours south of us. There might be a B-Fest in Toronto as well. Maybe that's why they're bringing it up. B-Fest is a straight 24-hour bad movie festival where they literally... And it's on a college campus, so they have to lock you in the building. You cannot leave, and there is no accommodations to sleep. You have to find dirty corners to sleep in. Some people sleep in the movie theater. It's a wonderful event of mania and bad movies. It's truly remarkable that I recommend doing once and only once.
That is how Darren lost his mind. He was never the same after B-Fest.
Yes, it's really, really remarkable, really, really wonderful. You know, like the year I went, they showed Life Force at like 3 a.m. So everyone was just hitting that point of like, oh, maybe I just got a couple hours of sleep. Maybe like I've been up all day and the mania is really kicking in. And then you see Patrick Stewart and sex aliens. It was a lot. It was a whole lot.
Shout out to Patrick Stewart having sex with aliens though.
Yeah.
I mean, but that was the famous Star Trek Next Generation thing where Ronald D. Moore, the guy who went on to create Battlestar Galactica, he was a young Star Trek fan. He got sold a script. He was, you know, given a tour of the set, and then Patrick Stewart was like, I really liked your script, young man, but if you want to write for the show, there's one thing you need to remember. And according to Ronald D. Moore, it's the captain doesn't do enough shooting and screwing. But they asked Patrick Stewart about it years later. He's like, no, I didn't say that at all. I said the captain doesn't do nearly enough fighting and fucking.
Difference.
Very different vibe.
That's a good goof. I like it. Yeah. Tommy Salty with 10 Polish zloty as well. That's 110 Polish zloty we made this episode. I'm not saying I'm proud of Poland, but I'm proud of Poland. It's quote not another Marty podcast. Lame reference. Not a lame reference. Shout out to Not Another Teen Movie. We don't get enough spoofs and lampoons. What happened to the spoof and the lampoon? Are we in a post-spoof and lampoon society?
Are you guys not aware of Not Another Church Movie, which is
I'm not aware.
It's the spoof of Tyler Perry movies that stars Jamie Foxx as God and Mickey Rourke as the devil. You guys didn't know this thing existed? How did I know this thing existed? I've never seen a Tyler Perry movie outside of like Gone Girl. There we go. Well done, Eric. That is a good job, Eric. Quick off the mark.
Well, this must have come out after the like cornucopia of Meet the movies, right?
No, this came out May 10th.
Whoa, this year?
This came out a few weeks.
You specifically asked like what happened to these movies. This is what happened to these movies.
I have not heard a peep of this. And the fact that there is a poster right there either means Eric is very good at Photoshop
Unless he made a Wikipedia page. Vivica A. Fox. Shout out to Vivica A. Fox, by the way.
No fucking way. That is. No, I legitimately thought these kind of movies were dead after the slurry of Meet the movies. Yeah.
Seltzer and Friedberg, isn't it? Seltzer and Friedberg are the two guys who are generally credited with killing the form.
Killing comedy movies in general, along with it, by the way.
Yeah.
Just kill the humor.
They did. They like the incredible bombs of all of the Meet the movies were one of the reasons why studios stopped making comedies in general. Because they weren't getting. Yeah, isn't that great? Like they killed an entire genre of cinema. Ugh, those assholes.
Well, anyways,
if I meet them, I will punch them in the mouth.
Not Another Church Movie will be our next movie for our Patreon movie night. Remember, Phoenix tier. You get to watch a Patreon movie once a month with us. We watched Equilibrium recently. Darren, we will work around your schedule so that you can watch Not Another Church movie with us. Yeah.
Yes, I would.
What are your thoughts on Equilibrium, by the way? The video went out to all. No, it actually didn't. It's still loading in the back end of Patreon. What are your thoughts of Equilibrium?
Keep in mind, the last time I saw it was in 2003 when I was like 16 years old, and that feels like the perfect time to have seen it and to have liked it. Again, it feels very much Matrix core, kind of like Aeon Flux, the Charlize Theron movie. It has a similar sort of vibe. And like Christian Bale, and who is the other guy with Christian Bale?
Taye Diggs.
Taye Diggs is in it.
Taye Diggs. Oh man. God, remember when like your two leads could be Taye Diggs and Christian Bale? Finally, two titans of cinema meeting on screen. The De Niro and Pacino of 2003. I remember quite enjoying
that is
it.
the Gun Fu movie. That is Gun Kata. Which Casey says, quote, the science checks out on it. Casey vehemently stands by the fact that the science checks out on gun fu
on Equilibrium. Because that's the only scientific question you might have about the movie Equilibrium. It's about the physics of the gun violence.
Casey said it works.
My favorite thing about rewatching Equilibrium is like realizing that it was like it was Patrick Bateman. And, it was American Psycho and then Equilibrium. And it's like you put those two things together and that's Batman, right? Like that's just Bruce Wayne and Batman. It makes so much more sense why Christian Bale was Batman.
Yeah. But no, I remember quite liking it. I have not seen it in years. So part of me is like, that could be a 16-year-old boy's opinion, but I really did enjoy it.
Yeah.
Still rad as hell.
Oh man.
That is still rad as hell.
Yeah.
What's up? 84 with a $2 dono. Thank you so much. Been waiting for this podcast with this host combo. What's up? We are glad to be here. Darwin's dummy. Been in the Green Gang for 6 months. New pod. Congrats. Scraw. Congrats. That was a bird. That was a Neon Genesis Evangelion reference. Don't worry about it. It's an anime.
No, I know. What is the bird?
Technically a reference.
Okay.
Technically, well, it is. On my personal channel, I have a little notification where it's the congratulations scene at the end of this series where everyone's clapping and says congratulations, and it cuts through all the characters saying congratulations, and then it cuts to Pen the penguin, and he just goes scraw, but which I assume is congratulations in Penguinese.
Yeah.
Fungus Finder with a $2 dono. Thank you so much, Jack. Quote: "We'll literally do anything just once, Packard." I mean, that's a good way to live, right?
Hell yeah.
I think that's a decent way to live.
Hell yeah.
And then
there's some things you can only do once, to be fair.
Hell yeah.
Question mark?
I'm not going to elaborate on that.
No, that's fine.
Tommy Salty with 10 Polish Zwoti. Thank you so much. Marty, what Polish films do you like the most? The Three Colors trilogy? The Decalogue. I watched a lot of those as a kid because those were some of my dad's favorite movies. What was Cold War recently?
Yes, that was exactly the one I was thinking of. Yeah.
Der Hexer.
Der Hexer, the Witcher movie. Darren, have you ever seen Der Hexer?
No, I've not seen the Polish version of The Witcher.
Oh, it's bad. Wait a minute, didn't we all talk about it on a podcast? Oh no,
we talked about The Witcher. Yeah, we talked about The Witcher.
No. You were gone one week when we were talking about The Witcher,
all right.
and Jack came on and was like, "I haven't been watching The Witcher, but can we talk about Der Hexer?" And so the night before, Frost and I watched Der Hexer, and it was really bad.
I ripped my copy of Der Hexer and had to, by the way, find my own subtitles via a third-party subtitle, stitch them onto my ripped copy of Der Hexer so that we could all watch Der Hexer.
That reminds me of how I watched, was it Crimea, the Vladimir Putin propaganda movie about the Russian quote unquote liberation of Crimea.
Sure.
It was produced by Russia for Russian citizens. And the only way I could watch it was, because of course I had to watch it, was through a Russian casino website, which I'm sure uploaded massive amounts of spyware onto my computer, but live translated by Google Translate as I was streaming it.
Oh my God.
It's there. Eric is incredible. Shout out to Eric.
Eric is used to us just rattling off games on Monday, and like there's already a trailer for it by the time we finish the sentence. It's very good.
Yeah. So so you got wonderful translations, like the moment where like the fighter pilot is getting ready to fly to Crimea and his wife is like, "This is not your war." And in subtitles he says, the people in Crimea have lives and rights, and then flies the jet plane off.
Beautiful.
And I'm like, it's like somebody watched Top Gun and was like, let's just do that as Russian propaganda. There is a love scene where there's literally a kind of a curtain blowing in the wind.
I think that sounds wonderful.
What's their
propaganda part of it? Everything sounds wonderful as long as you just forget about that part of it.
About the propaganda part. What was the Russian propaganda-filled version of Avengers? What was that one called? It was like a man turned into a bear. There was a bear man. There was a now I got to find this. It was
Night Watch, which I don't know if Night Watch is propaganda, but Night Watch was the Russian superhero movie.
Oh, that the Tamir Bekmetikov vampire movie.
Okay.
Not Night Watch. No. This was
there we go. That looks like a bear.
Looks like Russian propaganda. Bear Avengers.
What's that called? Guardians. The Guardians. That's right. Very, I guess very similar to how kind of like our Avengers was slightly, propagandizing pro-American. Yeah, it was just like, Russia is awesome. We have a bear man. It wasn't a good movie.
Take that, Captain America. There's also like the Russian romantic comedy about the building of the bridge in Ukraine as well, which is basically like Love Actually if it was about the construction of a bridge in Ukraine.
We have to have an entire lecture.
That the back half of that sentence is doing a lot of heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it is exactly like Love Actually.
We'll watch like Russian propaganda films throughout the decades. We can start with Vi, right? Vi, the old horror propaganda movie.
Okay, yeah.
We'll move into Love Actually, and then we'll get to Guardians. It'll be 3-piece
incredible
Russian propaganda. All right, let's take a little super chat break and get into podcast topics. And just start. Let's start with that. We will come back to super chats in a moment. Don't worry, everybody who is super chatted. We'll get to you.
Everyone's saved. Every
single one is saved.
I feel like we should. If I've been thinking of movies in 2024, the two movies that stick out to me of movies I saw in theaters that felt like capital T theatrical experiences were Dune Part 2 and Furiosa, and I feel like those are almost like can be talked together as a pair of when everyone talks about theaters are dying and just watch your Quibbies on your phone. I point to those two and I'm like, no, go. This is different if you watch this at home.
Quibi has not existed for 3 years. Like I know that this is a joke and we're committed to the bit, but I feel like it's important to stress Quibi has not existed for 3 years.
I mean, Skydance and Paramount, who knows what's going to happen? I'm just saying.
Not only has Quibi not existed, Quibi was an abject, almost immediate failure. Like no one liked Quibi.
And only existed to avoid like union regulation, which is one of my. There's a shout out to Kratzenberg. Gotta love Kratzenberg. But it was because like if a short is under 7 minutes, you don't have to adhere to, I think it's like Screen Actor Guild regulations with regards to paying residuals. So like that was that was why it was only a quick bite.
Is that like the whole 3rd or 4th season thing of where like shows don't get to that season and they just kind of like retool the show with a different name so that they don't have to
continue paying?
This industry is kind of, I'm gonna be honest, guys, the industry is kind of messed up.
Show business not great. And that's show business, not. Oh, hold on. Show business, not show friends.
I thought that was beautiful.
That's great. That's great.
I thought that was beautiful.
That was great.
That was you doing Javier Bardem in.
Of course it was.
2. Yeah.
And Dune 2.
Getting surprised that Lisa Nalgi. Which one do we want to start with?
Let's start with Dune 2.
Okay.
Let's start with Dune Part 2. Obviously, and I'll get the ball rolling here. Beautiful, gosh darn beautiful movie. I think Denis Villeneuve, that guy who directed it. I think that guy who directed it is such he is a master at explaining the unexplainable. All of the weird Dune bullshit is very easy to understand. Same with Dune Part 1. Same with, any of his other movies that have weirdo sci-fi aspects to it. He's very good at visually explaining things. My only issue with Dune Part 2 is not an issue with the film itself. It's just with the story. It's just it ends on a bit of a fart in the wind, where it's like, and I understand that's where the story ends, and I think it's bullshit because this isn't like a continuing story. This is a movie that's ending, and we're done with it now. And stop farting in the wind, Denis Villeneuve.
Harsh.
Yeah.
I actually thought the ending was really lovely. I thought it ended where it needed to. Like, I don't need Dune Messiah. And very famously, the book Dune Messiah only exists because Frank Herbert, the writer, was like, you guys didn't understand my work. So like Dune Messiah is this incredibly thin, spiteful book, which consists of Frank Herbert yelling at you, the reader, that you are an idiot who did not understand Dune. Which is
my favorite kind of art is art that belittles me.
Yeah. And then obviously at some point he realizes that he needs more money, so he just writes Children of Dune, which is very much What If Dune again, but longer.
Sure. Yeah.
But like, I thought the ending, I actually really loved the ending. I think the ending works really well because like you don't need to see what happens next without getting into spoilers. It feels like that could be the last time that I see those characters, particularly Paul Atreides and Chani, and I understand what has happened. I understand that, not to spoil the movie for anybody who hasn't seen it, but I understand that this is not the ending that the characters thought they were going to get, but that every decision has been made. There is nothing. Like, I look at that ending and I don't think I need to see any more. I don't think there's another. Ironically, despite knowing what happens in Dune Messiah, despite having read all the books, you get to that ending and you think, I don't think there's more story to be told. I think that story has reached the point where it is over and done with. It's very much, it's like the end of The Godfather Part 1, where Michael is the Godfather. He's in the room, they're kissing the ring, and then they close the door over and Kay can no longer see him. And it's like, I don't need to see the many adventures of Michael Corleone. I understand that he has like reached the peak and he's going to do the thing, and he will probably run a very ruthless criminal enterprise. And his wife Kay, he will probably have a loveless marriage to Kay. I understand that. So I think for me, I didn't see it as a cliffhanger ending. Actually, I saw it as like a logical endpoint.
And how did you feel about it compared to the end of the first? Like, did you feel the same way about the end of the first one?
Oh yeah.
No, because the first one, clearly stated this is part one. Like we're gonna have a part two. My expectations were set, and to be very clear, I don't think it was a cliffhangery ending. I think if they cut the movie 2 minutes earlier, I would have been very happy. Paul makes his decision, oh, fine, I will be this, terrible thing that I didn't want to be to save everybody. The part I didn't like is they're like, okay, everybody, let's go to space and start the war. And then they show like, if it would have just ended at him making the terrible decision and him and I don't remember her name, Zendaya. Chani, if they split, I understand. It was then they almost started ramping up momentum again. The war is starting. Everybody in the ships go up to space. And it's like, well, we don't need that part.
Well, I actually like the bit. I really love the bit where they're going into space, but she's walking off. Like that's the thing. It's like everybody is leaving her behind. Like that's the ending for me. Is like Chani is kind of staying, and she is being left behind in a very literal sense. So it's like, I know what's going to happen up there. It's not going to be pleasant, but like,
that's fair.
The surprise ending for me is pretty devastating. Like,
100%.
Yeah,
100%. I felt like it overstayed its welcome. In my opinion, by the way, does not ruin how much I enjoyed the movie overall. Just like a tiny little
Where do you stand on Villeneuve? Like where do you stand on Blade Runner, Arrival, like that kind of stuff? Do you usually kind of vibe with this stuff? Sicario?
100% love, no exceptions.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, no, my kind of filmmaker, very visual, very yeah, that's it. My kind of filmmaker, very visual.
Yeah.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. Yeah.
Same.
All the time.
I'm a bit more mixed on Villeneuve, I have to admit, actually, because I love Enemy and I love Sicario. I like Blade Runner a lot, but his earlier stuff like Polytechnic and stuff like that doesn't really work for me. And like Prisoners is a movie that like I admire, but I don't get the love and affection for. It's the kind of movie that like would have been like a prime like on Irish television, it would have been on at 9 p.m. on a Wednesday, and everybody in school would have been like, "That was really fun, wasn't it?"
Hell
As
yeah.
opposed to going, "This, yeah, hell yeah!" Did you see the bit where he did the thing with the hammer and everything? Yeah. In our woodwork class at the age of 12,
Exactly.
which is great. Like, because our woodwork teacher, he would like draw on the board. He'd be like, "Here's what you guys need to do for the next 40 minutes. I'm a teacher. I've done it in 2. Let's talk about Blade Runner." Very formative experience for me as a film critic. But like Villeneuve for me is kind of, I don't think I really loved him until I got the 2 Dune movies, I have to say. And I say that thinking like Dune Part 2 is like the movie of the year and one of the best movies of the past like decade. But it wasn't until we got to like Dune, and in particular Dune Part 2, I was like, yeah, no, I love this guy.
And you're on you're deep into your showings of Dune 2. Like you've seen Dune 2 at this point.
9 times?
Yeah.
What you doing tonight, Darren?
I think like as a filmmaker, his confidence has grown, and like he is now like even like getting very risky with some of his choices, some of the things that he's showing, which I think is wonderful. Like for me, it was as soon like I liked some of his early movies, and then I saw Arrival, and then I kind of looked back and was like, oh, I get the path now. Arrival for me was like wonderful. That was my head popping. By the way.
It's also just one of those. I think he reminds me of Christopher Nolan in that I'm glad you're giving these people seemingly blank checks to make this movie with really talented actors instead of that money going towards like $300 million reshoot slop. Even though I'm excited, I guess I'm excited.
Her web
to see
does
Deadpool.
Connect us all. Like it's going to be a very Craven Christmas.
Space Cadets Emma Roberts said the internet was too mean.
I mean, Emma Roberts also said that like she lost more jobs than she gained because of her family name. To be fair,
it's tough being Julia Roberts' niece.
And well, it is probably tough being Eric Roberts' daughter. And I say that having a great deal of fondness for some of Eric Roberts' performances.
Oh, anytime he shows up, he's one of those guys. I'm like, temperatures just went up a little bit in the movie when he shows up.
I like Marty. Like, look at Marty. Look at Marty.
Look at you.
Am I dooning?
You're dooning. You're doing it.
We're dooning it. We're dooning it. So the other side of the coin, Furiosa. While Dune seemed to be a massive critical and commercial success, Furiosa, I feel like commercially was a little more divided, or critically was a little more divided than Fury Road was, which Fury Road seems to be lauded as one of the best action movies of the past. Of the century.
Consensus one of the best movies of the 2010s, right? According to like Wire and like 100%. World of Reels, Poll of Polls, and all this sort of stuff. Like,
where this sort of had a rockier road to release from its first trailer to people seeing it and being like, oh, what's going on with the look of this? To, oh, do we need to go back and tell this story? To it being released and kind of ultimately being a little bit of a dud at the box office. I still thought the movie was absolutely gorgeous. I thought the movie was gorgeous.
172 million worldwide.
Globally, I guess it's inched its way there. Yeah,
it inched. You're right. I think that's the way. It's like it inched its way there.
Yeah.
I mean, it did underperform financially at the box office. It did, like, it's not going to get its money back. Incidentally, I think half the budget came from Australia because they have like a progressive tax system that encourages people to make art. So they got a massive tax rebate. It also, I think, did really well on streaming, but yeah, it did not set the box office alight. We should say, by the way, that like even Fury Road, I think only got to $300 million worldwide. So it was not a
Fury Road, people hold it in a crazy high regard, but it wasn't like a barn burner when it came out.
Correct.
In terms of box office.
And like, here's the thing, I get it, because even like I love Fury Road. I will proselytize for Fury Road every single day. But my halfway through Furiosa, I was almost like, oh, this is kind of boring. Oh, what's happening? That's what I was feeling. And then you hit a point, you go, oh wait, it's just a real movie. Like it's not, Fury Road is a real movie that is on top of a circus, right? That is on top of a chainsaw juggling clown, where it's like that, which is its own wonderful thing. But Furiosa is just a real movie, and so like tempering your expectations coming off of that high, I understand people's reaction. I think it's still a phenomenal movie, but I guess I understand.
Yeah, I think it is a movie. Like, it is structured. It has a 5-act structure, and it tells you, which I kind of like. I kind of love that it just announces itself with chapter titles, which may or may not have an influence on the backdrop this week, to be fair to it. But like, it is, as Jack said, it's structured as an epic. Like, Fury Road takes place over the course of what, maybe 48 hours at a push.
Whereas I mean, the whole thing about Fury Road is they say it's a race and then a chase, right?
Yeah,
like the first half's a race.
They drive really fast this way, and then they drive really fast that way. That was my dad's review of Fury Road, by the way. It's like, Dad, what did you think of Fury Road? Well, they went really fast that way, and then they turned around and went really fast this way. And I'm
not
like,
wrong.
Great, yeah, Ireland's finest film critic. But I will say that, like, Furiosa is much more of a convention. Again, it unfolds over decades. It is a David Lean-esque, and even if you look at how it's shot, it has like longer takes. The camera movements are kind of more graceful. It does use CGI, but it uses like things like time-lapse photography, which you don't get in Fury Road. Like, there's the wonderful shot where it transitions from the bit where she's a child and she escapes Rictus, and the wig goes down, and you get to see the branch. You see the branch of the tree growing in real time, because you see that the sky is moving overhead. And again, Miller does that a couple of times. There are a couple of shots where he'll show like the sun rising and falling and rising and falling to give a sense of time. It's a very different experience than Fury Road, and it's paced differently, and it feels differently. And I will say, I've seen it like 4 times, and I am very glad, like very lucky I saw it twice in the space of 24 hours, and on the second watch it really did improve for me, because it was as Jack said, I reset my expectations of it. It wasn't Fury Road 2.0. Now I know what this is. How do I judge it based on what it actually is and what it's doing,
Absolutely. I think if they would have tried, or if George Miller would have tried to hit the highs of Fury Road again, he would have fallen. Like, everyone would have been like, well, this sucks. Like, this just isn't as epic. So like resetting the clock. I think it's great. I cannot wait to watch them back to back. That's what I'm really looking forward to.
It made me immediately want to go home, even though I like rewatched Fury Road, and then the next night I saw Furiosa, and it made me immediately want to go home and rewatch Fury Road again, just because it's like, these are a pair. These are absolutely a pair, into the point where they join literally at the middle. Like they join together, and it does. We complain so much about sort of these franchises feeling a need to explain things that don't need to be explained. We always talk about the Han Solo's. How did Han Solo get his name?
The Kessel Run,
the Kessel Run, the dice on the Millennium Falcon, and it's just like, you don't need to tell us this. This movie does that, but it makes it so effective in the way that it makes you appreciate the original movie more. Like, you're like, she has one arm in Fury Road and she has 2 arms in most of Furiosa, and so you're like, all right, she's gonna lose her arm at some point. Like, but the way that's handled and what it actually means is
the way that's handled,
devastated.
Sorry, going out on a limb there. Apologies.
I did it again.
I mean, for most of the movie, she was pretty well armed. So,
do you want to just hand off hosting duty to you? I don't have any more. I don't know another word for hand.
Sorry. Little elbow in the ribs there, but anyway.
Yeah, there you go. Damn, gloves are off. But it was like, it makes her losing the arm like genuinely devastating. Like, when you realize what it actually means outside of losing an arm, like what that actually means for her goal, is like, it's staggering. It was such a good movie. I was kind of floored by it, and I wish this was the one. Why do you think people didn't show up to this one who did show up to Fury Road, or why did people not show up to this in the same way Dune? Like, is it that Anya Taylor-Joy is just not as big of a draw as your Chalamets and your Zendayas?
It's hard to pitch. Like, I think again, a lot of box office stuff is like post hoc, kind of trying to make sense of something that is inherently like ununderstandable. I do wonder if there is a sense of, like, first of all, assuming that Fury Road is a bigger hit than it was, where like it landed with critics and it landed with tastemakers. Did it land with general audiences? It only grossed $300 million. So like this made to about half of that in the post-pandemic landscape, which probably isn't the worst fall off in the world. I do think you could argue it's something around nostalgia as well, where like the Minions movies are doing well because the Despicable Me movies are from the childhood of people who are aging out, whereas like Fury Road arrives maybe at the very edge of people who would have seen the original Mad Max movies on VHS. Whereas how many people have seen the Mad Max movies, even the non-Fury Road ones, like the Road Warrior or whatever, in the years since? That's like the Indiana Jones thing or the Flash thing, where it's like Michael Keaton is very important to me and I presume to Jack and Marty, but is he important to my 23-year-old sister?
Absolutely not. Correct.
Yeah, that's it. Is Indiana Jones, is Harrison Ford, like that? The Crystal Skull grossed nearly $1 billion, $800 million, and it did that because it arrived at the sweet spot where people were young enough to have seen Last Crusade on VHS or whatever, even maybe even in the cinema, and go and see it in 2008 in the cinema. Whereas now, 14 years after that, why would you care? Like why would you want to go and see an Indiana Jones movie after you've already had your nostalgic cash in? And I do wonder if maybe that's an issue here. And again, it's not related to quality. Box office performance is entirely separate from quality.
Of course. No, and I think like the other factor is like those early reviews were kind of that thing Darren and I were talking about, where you just say this isn't Fury Road, and just hearing that puts you in a negative space. And so that means people are going to wait to see it until it comes to video on demand. People are going to wait to rent it, or people are going to wait, until it's cheaper to digest. I do think this will have a significant second wave as far as home video is concerned.
If it lands on like a streaming, if it's paired with
Max, presumably,
that's where the other ones were. So that would be I feel like that could end up being a big streaming movie.
And to Jack's point, like I think it's very telling. I think one of my opening lines, Marty can probably testify this, when I covered it at Cannes, was the first thing to know about it is it's not Fury Road. So yes, Jack is entirely correct. Like that is the first line of every review.
That's tough to hear, like, right? Yeah. Like, wait, but I like Fury Road.
And you, like, what was the temperature like? I mean, Darren, so it premiered at Cannes, right? And you saw it there. So like, what was the temperature like coming out of that? I guess
it was a little bit kind of confused. I mean, I will say, like, one of the best moments of the film festival was like getting a ticket to Furiosa, wearing my tuxedo, sitting down, the gentleman being shown to the seat next to me because we had assigned seating for the red carpet premieres. Everything else was free seating. And like the guy is wearing a tuxedo. He's a young man. The lights go down. The Warner Brothers logo starts going up, and I notice motion at the corner of my eye, and I turn around, and this guy is just stripping the tuxedo off him. He has brought like his casual clothes, and he's going to watch the world premiere of Furiosa. He wore the tuxedo to get off past the red carpet, but baby, the lights are down, the jacket's coming off, the shirt is going open, the cummerbund is being stripped off. Like, I'm fairly sure he has like
me when I get home from being out for the day, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm gonna be almost naked by the time I get upstairs. Just like,
I think he had like runners in his bag. I think that was how committed he was to this. I'm going to watch Furiosa comfortably. I will say, coming out of the vibe of it, there was that sense of like, this is not Fury Road. We don't quite know what to make of it. And the same thing happened with the critic screening in the morning as well, where I think I was on the more positive end because I had like recalibrated my expectations in the 12 hours since I'd seen it the first time. But the vibe coming out was like, that's pretty good, but it's also not Fury. It's not Fury Road, It's pretty good, but it's not the best movie of the 2010s.
Which is a tough, like, it feels like a backslide, even though it's a very different movie. And it's like, it's not technically a backslide. It's just a different movie, but it feels like a backslide. Yeah.
Would you rather live in the Citadel, in Gastown, or in Bullet Farm?
Who is running? Like, here's the question: who's running like Gastown when I'm living in it? That's the question. Is the guy who does the nice paintings on the wall in charge of Gastown, or is the guy who lets the dog shit all over the nice paintings on the wall in charge?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, that's the tough questions. Oh yeah, the guy who like looked at the painting in the book. And he's like, I'm gonna do a big old wall of it. The guy who has a bit of taste. He's got like good taste. I feel like that's a guy I could relate to.
Yeah, I could do Gastown. I could do Gastown under their control. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry to inform you,
so
it's Scrotus and Rictus.
Which one is Scrotus in charge of? Because that feels like the better choice of the two.
I'm probably, you must have seen the movie more than once because you held the gun to my head. I can't tell you which one's which. I just really like their names.
Scrotus is the one who looks like the guy from Mike Day from
Mikey
SNL.
Day.
He looks like a Mikey Day character,
which is Mikey Day doing
Beavis or Butthead or
Junior. Yeah.
yeah.
And I think Rictus was actually the
wrestler,
the antagonist of the video
of the last
game,
one.
Mad Max. As well.
No, Scrotus was the antagonist of the video game. Is the thing. Rictus actually appeared in Fury Road. He's the one who tears the engine off and he gets blown up. He's the one who I had a beautiful baby brother.
Yeah.
That guy. You could tell I've seen this multiple times, and it's clearly made an impression. That's famously, is it Nathan Jones, the wrestler who played Rictus, has had to go on social media and explain that no, he does not abuse children. That is just the character he plays in the movie. And I'm like, I feel like I have lost all faith in humanity. That an actor has to go, just so we're clear.
To Fabian Franco, who plays Kristen Cole in House of the Dragon. I'm like, you guys know what actors are? Like, no.
House of the Dragon is a documentary. It's filmed in Europe. That's what Europe is like, right? They work very differently over there.
Yeah. We have to have an entire new class in grade and high school just about media literacy. These are pretend things, people. Yes.
And we should shout out, I think Aaron mentioned in the comments there, the guy who does play Scrotus played Slit in the Fury Road, who's the driver who Nicholas Hoult is kind of like the wingman for. But also what's fascinating is he's a very handsome guy, like, which is the kind of thing that I love, where he's like, he pops up, I think, in the X-Men movies. He's meant to be like the young William Stryker in the Fox reboots. Like, he looks like this guy who looks like the poor man's kind of Josh Hartnett kind of vibe is the thing they're going for. And I kind of love that George Miller's like, give me that sweet, handsome, hot young man, and I'm going to staple his mouth, and then I'm going to give him a hairlet and make him look like a Mikey Day character. Like, that's...
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
George Miller. Never
saw
the movies.
Yeah.
Never.
And Australian taxpayers. Thank you for Australian taxpayers.
Also, shout out to the fine folks of Australia as well. Thanks, Amy. I assume Amy paid for a lot of this movie.
Single-handedly.
Amy and Matt.
The big two. What are some other movies that stuck out to you guys in 2024 so far? Jack, give us one.
Okay, and I don't know if it came out this year, but I watched it this year. I'll give a shout out to two movies that I watched this year that I don't think came out this year. As I am a big proponent of comedy movies, there are two comedy movies that I watched this year, Hundreds of Beavers and Bottoms.
Yeah.
Hundreds of Beavers, I think I've talked about on several live streams and whatnot. I cannot stop talking about how hilarious it is. I want to say Wisconsin originating director. Mm-hmm. Wonderful comedy movie. And Bottoms, we are bringing back the boner comedy, which, is a lost genre. We're reclaiming the boner comedy, and I love it that it's
Hundreds of Beavers is the photo down there, not Bottoms, to be clear.
Right. That's
that right there. In case there's any confusion in the chat.
Hundreds of Beavers is basically, Looney Tunes, but quasi live action. And you don't think that it will work for an entire movie, and it does, and it goes harder and harder and harder. The bits are great. Bottoms is a gay Fight Club rom-com boner comedy, and every part of it is gorgeous. Every part of it stands in defiant protest against everyone who says you can't make those kind of jokes anymore. Mm-hmm. There is a running gang about bombing high schools. It is hilarious. It is crass, and it is hopefully a point in the favor of it's okay to make comedy movies again.
And one of my favorite small parts ever in Marshawn Lynch, like the football player.
That's the
like
coach.
An absolute marvel. And Io Adebiri.
You all told me to hate women.
And Io Adebiri, who obviously is also one of the stars of The Bear, just like genuinely one of the funniest human beings on earth.
Yeah.
Also, her Letterboxd reviews are very funny as well.
Yeah. And I think she's an honorary Irish person. She's kind of been adopted by Ireland as well.
Oh, that's her and like Paul Mescal are like super tight. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think she says she played. I think she played a donkey in the Banshees of Inisherin, but not Jenny the donkey. To be clear, she was just in method. According to herself, she was in method performance.
Just
a
donkey.
A donkey. Yeah. But like, want to shout. Both of those are really good recommendations. Like Bottoms it's insane how specifically Fight Club it is, which is the thing that I love about it. Like it is very specifically, we are doing Fincher's Fight Club to the point where like it begins as a fight club and then kind of develops into a terrorist organization. I remember sitting there going, it's insane how many studio comedies are just, what if we took a David Fincher movie too seriously? Like Game Night is another one as well, where Game Night's like we watched the Michael Douglas movie The Game and we thought we would play it entirely straight.
100%. Yeah.
Fantastic pitch.
Fantastic.
Both great movies.
And it's, back, when I was growing up watching VHS movies that were, of my parents' times that I should not have been watching, I'm thinking of you Porky's or, Revenge of the Nerds or like, any kind of classic boner comedy in which like the structure of the movie is about like, oh, we're going to see boobs and stuff. And it's like that via the lens of a young gay high school girl is hilarious. Beautiful. And well done.
Speaking of this day, right now, 25th anniversary, a formative boner comedy for me, American Pie.
There you
go. 25 years ago, Jason Bigg made love to an apple pie or a cherry.
That was probably the zenith, right? And then all boner comedies fell after that.
I watched that with my parents because, of course, I did.
Why did you do that? Why you shouldn't have done that?
two of the great family movie going experiences of my time. Like, because when I was a kid, then Dad, like, I had no pick in the movie. Dad just came back from like the Extravision, the video store, and was like, "I've heard this is a funny movie that we should watch together as a family." And I will say, during the opening scene, the first thing my mom turned to me and she said, "From now on, you're washing your own socks."
That's like a really good response from a mom. That's like really funny.
And then that's very similar to the story about like going to see, is it Brokeback Mountain, where my aunt took my entire extended family to see Brokeback Mountain because the men would love the cowboy movie and the women would love the romance. So it had something for everybody. This was her logic. So I'm sitting next to my gran during Brokeback Mountain, and there's a scene where kind of Heath Ledger kind of grabs Jake Gyllenhaal and starts going about his business. And it's silent and you can hear the grunting and the noise and you can see the silhouettes on screen. And, I'm at that age. I'm like 15, 16 or whatever. Yeah. And my gran in the middle of this like sounds of Heath Ledger grunting leans over to me and goes, "So that's why John Wayne walked like that."
My God. You're almost like, were you saving this for this moment? Did you know this was going to happen? You're like, I got this one in the chamber. This is going to be great.
Mama Mooney is there with the zinger.
That was grand. That was my mom's mom. To be clear,
Mima Mooney. Sorry, not Mama Mooney. Mima Mooney. With the zinger to end all zingers. Take that, Wayne.
I just want a podcast that's just your family talking about movies. Your dad's review of American Pie. It's just about a guy who's trying to come, and at the end he comes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it for me. That was my big. Those were the movies I was proud to have finally watched. I missed them kind of their first run, and it was like, oh yeah, I caught up on them. Very happy.
It's funny, the Hundreds of Beavers you brought up on a podcast with me. I can't remember what it was, but I was like, I'll check this out. But also, this is probably a weird Jack thing. And then over the weekend, I was listening to the Big Picture podcast that weekend, which is Ringer podcast, which is one of my favorite movie centric podcasts. And the host brought up Hundreds of Beavers. I'm like, oh no, this is like a real thing. I'm gonna watch this, and I did watch it.
No,
it took you and
Sean Fennessy and Amanda Dobbin.
Yeah. It took them. It wasn't just a Jack effort. It was all three of you.
No, and to be fair, sometimes don't go just off of my recommendations. I will recommend a weirdo movie that you might not like.
No, but this was great, and it is like it's the best slapstick.
It's great.
Put on film in forever. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So you said you didn't watch anything else. You did watch Poor Things, and I want to do a dual convo because we've all seen Poor Things, but then I want to talk about Darren. You saw Kinds of Kindness, right?
Yeah.
Which we have not yet, as far as I know. Oh, I didn't get a chance to see yet. Okay. Jack, what did you think of Poor Things?
It's what I think about a lot of Yorgos. Is that
Yorgos Lanthimos?
Yeah, Yorgos
We're giving you a lot of the tough names, but you're handling them well.
It's what I feel about a lot of Yorgos's film, which is like it is beautiful. Beautiful to look at. It is exactly the film that he wants to make, which, by the way, is not something you get to say with a lot of modern filmmakers. I think like how extraordinary is it that he gets to make exactly the movie he wants to make. I think it's way more simple than the artistry of the movie will admit. It's just a very simple story it's just a coming of age story. That's it. And it has significantly more fucking than I ever would have imagined. So
it's a very European movie, to be fair. Like it is incredibly European in its sensibility. It's, I think, one of the most expensive Irish films ever produced because it's an Irish production company that worked on Element Pictures. And it's shot on studios as well, which is remarkable. Like it's shot like movies used to be made, where he went to like Eastern Europe, I think Bulgaria, I don't know for sure. But he basically rented out the largest studio in Europe at the time that he rented. I think they
build all these sets.
To build all the sets. And like there's sequences where she's on a boat and she's looking out at the sky, and that's an LED screen. It's like the volume. It's like that kind of effect. Beautiful. But it's real and it's tangible and it's tactile. And this is like how they used to make Universal horror movies, which is like incredible. And he shoots it like they used to shoot Universal horror movies. It's just it's such a weird thing to like exist. You know, like
no, and I'm so happy it exists. It is like, but I'm so happy it exists. But if I'm going to be cynical at all, this is exactly the kind of like pomp and circumstance and arty farty bullshit where it's like, like at the end of the day, this story is just like, oh, a girl figures out what she wants.
She's all that. I like that.
That's it. Like that's the story. Like, and it's like it's but pure artistry. Like Poor Things is not a movie I can like recommend to anyone outside my arty farty circles. I wish I would have seen it in the theaters, just because I wanted to be there for how uncomfortable that is. A friend of mine saw Kinds of Kindness in a theater, and he said it was the most awkward theater experience, and he loved it. So I'm very excited to go. Hopefully, it's still playing in my art house theater this next couple of days, so I can go see it.
I will say again to bring the Mooney family into it. Poor Things is a movie that my mother has been yelled at because somebody knows that I'm a film critic. They don't know my thoughts on Poor Things. They just know that like Poor Things got good reviews and they watched it on Disney Plus, which is wild that this thing exists on Disney Plus. Particularly,
it's genuinely nuts.
Yeah,
because now like Hulu stuff you can just watch through Disney Plus.
That's so fucked up.
But in Ireland and in Europe, there is no Hulu, so it is all on Disney Plus. Yeah. So it's like The Acolyte, and to the left, it's like Poor Things. You have fighting and you have fucking. But my mother got stopped by a friend of hers who was so angry that she had watched Poor Things on Disney Plus and was like, "Your son is a film critic. He should stop this from happening. How did your son let this happen?" I'm like, I feel like you vastly overestimate the influence of an individual film critic.
Right.
Against the Walt Disney Corporation. And a movie they've already made.
Yeah.
The movie's done. I don't get any input at the start.
Right. No, at the end of the day, where it's just like, this is exactly the kind of movie I want. Where it's like, I'm not going to be, and like I've seen all of Yorgos's movie, and I've always come away a little middling, where it's like, oh, I love the Lobster, The Favorite,
Killing of a Sacred Deer, for example, Elks,
Killing of a Sacred Deer,
yeah.
And so
best
it's like
spaghetti scene ever.
It's the best way to eat spaghetti.
Like I always come away feeling like, oh, I'm really happy this movie exists, and I don't necessarily care about it. Yeah. If that can be a place to live in.
Yeah.
Weirdly, like I like this a bit less than I love most of Lanthimos' other films, which is a strange thing to do because it's arguably the most Lanthimos film. I'm kind of like, I'm not quite in the Jack territory. Like, I just think for me, the appeal of Lanthimos as a filmmaker is that his films are fundamentally about the idea that human beings are odd. Like we are very odd creatures, and are very complicated and we don't make sense. And the way in which we express ourselves to one another is complicated and messy and doesn't make sense. No characters in any movies have ever talked the way that Lanthimos characters talk to one another. Like, and for me, like that's a large part of the appeal of his movies, where you take something like, say, The Lobster, which is a movie about how if you don't find your perfect partner, you will be turned into an animal, which is a absurd premise, but it takes place in an ordinary hotel. It's not like the Grand Budapest Hotel. It's just a boring ass hotel. The Killing of a Sacred Deer, which is like a classic Greek tragedy, takes place in a fairly banal, ordinary hospital. But the characters all talk to one another in ways that no human being has ever tried to express themselves to another. And I find that, like, my big issue with Poor Things was when you make a world that is as stylized and as weird and as eccentric as the interior lives of Lanthimos' characters, they themselves seem less interesting and less compelling. Where, like, I find myself less engaged with the characters in Poor Things than I do with, say, whatever the hell's going on with Nicole Kidman and Colin Farrell's marriage in, like, Killing of a Sacred Deer. Yeah. Because, like, they live in a world that it looks like it's made of pastry, you know? It looks like the first movie shot on location inside a pastry. And so it kind of loses a lot of the weird tangibility and tactilness that I really associate with Lanthimos. And so, like, like Jack, I respect Poor Things, particularly like the craft that went into it, more than I actually enjoyed it. And I feel, it's probably my least favorite of the Lanthimos films I've seen. I have not seen Alps, I think. I think Alps is his first one.
Do you think, like, part of your enjoyment of his earlier work is just that juxtaposition, is like kind of like highlighting the otherness of the characters
of human beings, and like contrasting the idea of, like, his worlds are perfectly normal. They're like, the way that he shoots movies is very Kubrickian, to the point where, like, The Favorite is transparently Barry Lyndon. So, like, his framing is very straightforward. It's very symmetrical. It's very clear. There's lots of glass. It's recognizable. The world that these characters are moving through is recognizable as a world that human beings live in. But his human beings are like Lovecraftian monstrosities that make absolutely no sense. And the laws that govern their relationships to one another, like, for example, seemingly the power of Barry Keoghan to, like, murder a random child, or the ability to turn people into lobsters. Those sorts of elements are surreal and absurd, and they work so well because they intrude into ordinary settings in a way that captures the sense of, like, that weird fear, and maybe this is just me, maybe this is me oversharing or whatever, the feeling you get sometimes that, like, other human beings are fundamentally alien, and, like, you will never know what's going on inside another person's head because they have their own unique way of seeing the world that isn't your own. And like, sometimes you have that fear that you don't understand, that, like, it is impossible for you to understand the gulf between you and another person. Lanthimos' movies cover that for me, because I watch them and I'm like, I don't understand. Like, these are people. I recognize these as people, but I don't. And I can see there's something there, but I don't get it. And, like, that's why they're so effective to me. Whereas Poor Things, it's like, they look like cartoons, and they look like Frankenstein's monsters, and like, they look like, you know, kind of like people made of jigsaws. And so it's less uncanny or less effective for me, because I look at them and I go, well, of course they're weird. They live in a weird world.
They look like Tim Burton characters.
That's it, exactly. A little bit. And I say that, like, I like the film, I don't hate the film, but that is why it's not as good for me. Or why
so you're the only one of us who saw Kinds of Kindness so far.
Yes.
Where does that one sit on your? Because that's like a trio of short stories. Is that right?
Yes.
3 short films almost.
Made in 12 weeks while he was waiting for, like, the special effects to render on, like, Poor Things, which is incredible.
You know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of you, Darren. In that you're like, oh, in between this, I'll learn how to edit videos, and I'll just start editing videos. Don't worry. Yeah, that's my second job. Yeah, don't worry about it.
I do love the idea that, like, well, I am. He is also, like, a bearded European, but, like, I actually really loved Kinds of Kindness. And Kinds of Kindness is, like, again, it's him working with the guy who wrote The Killing of a Sacred Deer, the guy who wrote The Lobster. So he's not working with Tony McNamara, he's working with the original thing. And it has this very Greek tragedy sensibility to it, where, you know, it is kind of, it's about the idea of love, but it's about the idea of love as understood by Yorgos Lanthimos, which is to say that it is nothing that resembles anything close to what you see love look like in other movies. And it's about this idea of, like, is love control? Is love sacrifice? Is love worship? And how far those ideas can be kind of warped. And they are 3 movies. They're each about 50 minutes long. They have the same core cast, because again, it's that kind of that rotating cast thing. Mm-hmm. He literally grabbed, I love that he was like, yo, Emma Stone, Willem Dafoe, and Margaret Qualley, you want to hop over to New Orleans for 12 weeks with me and make these 3 crazy ass short movies that I'll release a couple of months after Poor Things. Like, Emma Stone, you're gonna win an Oscar. We're gonna win more Oscars than any other movie apart from Oppenheimer. How'd you like to kill a couple of weeks in New Orleans making 3 Greek tragedies? And I really liked it. I've seen it 3 times, appropriately enough. And it's really stayed with me. Again, it is that classic Lanthimos on his old shit again, where it's a world that is recognizably human. It's again, it's very worlds made of glass, concrete, lots of silver, lots of white, these kind of sterile spaces, symmetrical compositions, and characters who dress in clothes that you recognize normal people as having worn at certain points, but which still appear very strange when you see them in context.
Yes.
And I really liked it. It's one of my favorite films of the year so far. One of my favorite films that I saw at Cannes, and just a delight.
Beautiful. I'm very much looking forward to it. Great.
Yeah.
Great.
It also stars Jesse Plemons, right? Who also
and he's incredible.
You know what else he's incredible in? Civil War.
He is indeed. In that one scene. A little bit about
Civil War. In one scene. Talk about someone owning a movie for one scene. Jack, you haven't seen Civil War yet, have you?
I've not.
Do you have any desire? Where do you sit on the Alex Garland scale? Your ex machinas, your devs, your
I like Ex Machina. And
what else?
Annihilation,
yeah.
Oh,
Dredd. He ghost directed Dredd. He wrote 28 Days Later.
Oh, yeah.
He wrote DMC Devil May Cry, the game.
Did he?
Casey
Wait a minute.
Wow.
You did. He wrote a couple games for Ninja Theory.
Okay.
He wrote The Book of the Beach.
If he ghost directed Dredd, I'm all on board with him. Ex Machina I really liked. Annihilation I think was too simple of a movie. I really enjoy monster as metaphor, but if then during the movie you just say the metaphor out loud, it kind of ruins the whole monster as metaphor thing. There's
what
something.
If we sit down and talk about how this is a movie about depression?
like what if that's just how we end the movie? Is we just explain to you all the movie we watch, where it's just like that goes too far for me. But okay, so I'm okay with this person existing. I didn't see Civil War.
He also wrote the 28 Days Later, and he's writing the new 28 Years Later.
Oh,
it's directed by Nia DaCosta, isn't it?
What, 28 Years Later? No, it's Danny Boyle.
Okay, well, I thought Nia DaCosta is doing a 28. Like, are they not doing like a? Okay, hold on. Let me just go to the fact machine.
27 years later.
29 years later, it would presumably have to be.
No, as far as I know, last time I saw that Danny Boyle's coming back. Pride of Ireland.
Oh,
okay. 28 years later sequel sets Nia DaCosta. Okay, so she's directing the sequel to the Danny Boyle sequel. So I'm one move ahead of you.
Wait, she's directing. They're making a new one and a sequel to the new one.
Yeah. They're making a trilogy, apparently. Yep.
Jesus Christ.
They're all in. There have only been 2 28 Days Later movies.
And I haven't seen.
And there are going to be 5 of them. By the time they're Kevin Costnering this shit, is what they.
Yeah. I have not seen a 28 days or years or months later or weeks. I have not seen any of these zombie movies. So that was kind of like when the zombies
28 Days Later was like a real. That was like, I feel like zombies weren't annoying yet. Right.
Probably. I don't know.
Well, that was around the same time as
you.
it was shot before 9/11 and released after 9/11 was the perfect thing about it, right? Like it landed so perfectly in the zeitgeist where people are like, there's no way that this was like written and conceived before 9/11 because the imagery is so evocative of 9/11.
Sure.
But yeah.
Also, 28 Weeks Later opens with one of my favorite scenes in any horror movie ever.
Oh, the bit where he's in the house. Like, it's just incredible with the Robert Carlyle. Like, Robert Carlyle in 28 Weeks Later is like one of the great can we spoil it and say decoy protagonists in a horror movie?
Sure.
We should. Yeah, we could. It's been like 15 years, 20 years.
It's been 15 years.
We're well past spoiler territory.
Because it begins with like, oh, it's Robert Carlyle. You're in safe hands with Robert Carlyle. And it very quickly becomes clear you are not in safe hands with Robert Carlyle.
It does what I think a lot of people would do when there's a zombie attack and you're with your family and it's what if I could kind of use my family as bait and then try to
he
try to
force
run
majeures
away?
it. He force
Yeah.
majeures it. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, I wouldn't say he actively uses the family as bait, but when faced with, do I go back for them?
Yeah, or do I get on the
Or do
boat
I
and
run
sail
away?
away?
He just runs away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
no,
afterwards,
yeah.
he's like, so kids, you know that I tried to do everything I could to rescue your mother. And then like, oh, by the way, you know they found mom. And he's like, shit.
Oh, no. That's not good. Great movie.
Yeah, wonderful.
Um,
Actually, you had a really great time with it.
Yeah, so did I.
I'll add it to my this October. I'll rewatch him, or I'll watch him for the first time. But so
There
he
you
did Civil War.
So yeah, Civil War was the movie
Okay.
this year that he wrote and directed that. It was a nice like tight 90-minute movie about journalists trying to get to from New York to DC to try to get an interview with the despot president of America,
Nick Offerman,
Nick Offerman, who instigated a modern civil war.
Okay.
And the show is pretty much just a short kind of series of vignettes of them trying to get in the middle of a war zone from New York to DC to get this final interview, and the kind of the atrocities they come across upon the way. Very like Apocalypse Now vibes. It really worked for me in a way that I know it didn't for a lot of people I know who saw it. Maybe they were going in expecting something differently, but its indifference to these horrors was something that I think was a feature, not a bug. That kind of the way it just showed these terrifying moments of violence, terrifying moments of brother on brother conflict, and the kind of apathy towards it of like, why are we doing this? And it's like, well, this is what we're doing. It's even something that it feels like something that the new season of Game of Thrones is even exploring, of that like you can't even trace back to what is the root of this thing. It's just the ball started rolling at some point, and we are all victims of the ball at this point.
And it also like treats America the same way that America has like treated Vietnam and Korea and like every other, and Iraq and Afghanistan in like all of the media that they've made, where it's like, look, it's too complicated to explain what's actually going on here. The important thing is that there's lots of gnarly shit going on, and it's an exploration of human nature. And it's kind of fascinating to see that lens turned inwards on America, where it does have like a heap of iconography that is very explicitly American. Like there are Boogaloo Boys, for example, in there, which is not something I expected to ever say about a major film released in American theaters. Hey, the Boogaloo Boys are having a moment. But it... But it's taking a lot of that iconography and that imagery and just kind of like the climax of the movie is Apocalypse Now. It's Apocalypse Now in the Potomac instead of the Da Nang River. And it's like really disconcerting to see viscerally the iconography of America, the Lincoln Memorial, the White House, all of this stuff, and see it rendered in the same way that, you know, the streets of Baghdad have traditionally been, or, you know, Saigon during the fall has traditionally been. It's very effective, I think, visual storytelling. I also think, it has some powerhouse scenes. The Clemens scene is absolutely incredible. What kind of American are you?
Yeah. Yeah, he's one of those scenes where he pops up for literally one scene of the movie and he just takes the oxygen out of the theater.
Yeah.
That's already on that's got to be already on streaming, right? I guess not stream, but probably VOD.
VOD it is on premium video on demand.
Yeah. Cool. Recommend that one.
On the list.
On the list, just add it to the big list. Darren, what are some of your other highlights of the year?
I'm looking at the comments here and realizing that people don't know what the Boogaloo Boys are, but they have gotten the reference that it is an Electric Boogaloo reference.
Yes.
But to like the concept of like a civil war in America.
Yeah.
What a time to be.
What a time to be alive.
I do want to shout out Challengers. Is probably like Dune 2 is my favorite movie of the year so far. Challengers is maybe the second favorite. It's just such. Have you guys seen it? Have either of you seen it? It's just virtuoso filmmaking. I don't
know if I can deal with that amount of horny. You know.
There's a secret.
What's the limit of horny? What if you don't watch anything for horny for a couple weeks? Save up your horny, and then use it all in this one movie.
It's like, what if we cut out like Mike Feist? Is that going to give you an appropriate level of horniness? No. We cut out Josh O'Connor, maybe you have me. What if we could add Zendaya? It's like, how does that probably makes the movie more horny somehow?
It's more horny. If it's just those two boys, they're gonna be way too horned up without her.
Yeah. I mean, I will like just in terms of filmmaking, there is like I think I mentioned this before, but the moment I fell in love with Challengers is the moment where like Mike Feist is like about to serve, and he looks down at the camera and he's dripping sweat so hard that he blurs the camera lens. And I'm like, this is cinema. And then the director is like, oh no, now we're going to play a set from the perspective of the tennis ball. So like the camera goes into the tennis ball and he hits it across the court as it bounces back and forth as the Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross kind of like synth soars. Yeah, and it is beautiful. And I think it's just a really well made film. I think the three leads are phenomenal in it. I think it is this wonderful study of like sex and power and lust and desire. And yeah, I think to Marty's point, it is a movie that is like where Zendaya is the least horny part of it. Which is,
yeah. The two boys when they're eating corn dogs, they're eating churros. Let me tell you.
Churros, yeah. There's a moment where Josh O'Connor leans over and like suggestively takes Mike Feist's churro in his mouth.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
That's
he eats a banana. Like Josh O'Connor eats a banana at one point to tone like Mike Feist while they're playing.
As like that's the same way I eat bananas. I don't break eye contact.
Yeah, with the male colleague that you're with at that moment in time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, a lot of weird, really awkward.
Yeah.
We
need to talk about that.
Shout out to Eric, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, Eric! Oh, you found the churro.
Incredible.
The churro scene.
Miguel says so. It's like E2 Mama Tambien. Yes, with tennis.
Yes, it actually is like that. E2 Mama tennis.
I love it. Yeah. What else, Darren?
Great.
Just keep rattling them off.
The Iron Claw is the other one that kind of jumps out to me as well. I don't know if you guys have seen it. This would have been a late last year release. The Iron Claw is just great. It's the kind of like movie they don't really make anymore. I think I've heard it described by somebody, I can't remember who, as like, you know, the way there are Dude Rocks movies. This is a dudes don't deserve this movie, where like it begins as this kind of triumphant study of the Von Erich family dynasty in professional wrestling, and like it becomes very clear about half an hour in that this is going to be a story of tragedy after tragedy after tragedy befalling this family, and it manages to do this incredible thing where it is incredibly profoundly sad. It is heartbreaking. It has this incredible cast. Like the boys are all incredibly lovable and charming, and it's full of these people that you desperately want to do well and want to do better. And then they suffer setback after setback after setback. But it manages to remain cautiously optimistic throughout. Like I think there's been a lot of discussion about whether or not, you know, they should have swapped the role of Jeremy Allen White and Zac Efron. But I honestly do think that Efron is the movie's beating heart. I think that like the movie would not work without Efron in the lead role because you need, and I apologize to Mr. Efron for this, I am talking purely about his screen persona, but you need God's most perfect idiot in the lead role, where you need this guy who has no guile, who has no cunning, who has no sense of manipulation, or like arguably no inner life going on, where you need this person to be pure and decent and kind and good, and to be in no way manipulative or cynical or suspicious or anything like that. So you can follow through his eyes and you can just want to hug him. You can just want to hug this guy for most of the movie. And I don't think you would get that with Jeremy Allen White. I think Jeremy Allen White, you'd be like, this guy is complicated. There's a lot going on beneath the surface of this guy. But I think the movie works because you follow Kevin Von Erich, the character played by Zac Efron, through the movie. And all this stuff happens around him. And he has this wonderful little arc where he grows up a little over the course of it. It's just beautiful. And I think Sean Durkin, the director, quite fond of his work. He did The Nest a little while ago as well, which is very good. That's the Jude Law, Carrie Coon movie. And I think that like he manages to somehow make the American wrestling version of Raging Bull, which is something that is frankly incredible. Yeah. What if Raging Bull, but about professional wrestling? And I'm like, that doesn't make sense, but somehow that's what this movie is.
Somehow you nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, God's most perfect idiot might be the nicest and meanest thing. Like, if someone said that to me, I wouldn't know if it was the most beautiful compliment I've gotten all day, or if it's like the most scathing insult I'll receive in my life.
To be fair, though,
Renaissance.
that is the role that he plays very well.
Yeah,
like, if you think about him in Neighbors and the Baywatch movie, Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates, he is a beautiful, simple man.
God's perfect himbo, maybe.
Yes,
perfect himbo.
That himbo role of like kind-hearted and totally hunky. I think it's a compliment overall.
Yeah. No, I mean it as a compliment. I honestly do mean it as a compliment.
Yeah.
I don't think he would take it as a compliment. But like that's the thing where like he tried to do was it like incredibly wicked, shockingly evil and vile.
Oh yeah,
where he plays like Ted Bundy. And it's like I admire what you're I see what you're trying to do with your screen persona, but no. Like just no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other standout movie of the year so far, in the exact opposite direction of the Iron Claw, that has some similarities actually. I saw the TV Glow, which is it's probably the most moved I've been in a theater all year. Actually saw it in Milwaukee a month ago or so, and it's Jane Schonenbrau's follow up to Everybody's Going to the World's Fair. We're all going to the World's Fair. And it's this dreamlike cotton candy high school world where we follow the lives of these two teenagers through high school and beyond who are clearly going through things and clearly have trouble connecting with anyone around them, including their family. But they find this mutual bond in this fictional a TV show in the world that's almost like a shitty Buffy the Vampire Slayer show that they kind of become obsessed with, and then over the course of the movie start thinking that there might be something more to this show than meets the eye. This might have just not been a normal show, but it's also very clearly the director is a trans woman, and it's very clearly an allegory. Throughout the entirety
of the film. It's about transformative fandom, like
and like putting so much of yourself in the thing you are a fan of to the point where it almost starts like breaking you apart, and you lose a sense of who you are. It is one of the most gorgeous movies I've seen in like just from moment to moment. One of the most gorgeous movies I've seen in a very long time. Incredible soundtrack, and if we want to talk about kind of movies that leave you devastated to go back out into the sunlight afterwards, it was actually absolutely one of those. Yeah,
it's heartbreaking. Like it's genuinely heartbreaking. Like it's that thing where it's incredibly moving and incredibly sweet, and like it is something that feels vaguely relevant. It's kind of weird that the thing I thought of a great deal about this is J.K. Rowling, and I need to be very careful because she's very litigious. But like the kind of the idea that you have this thing that you loved as a child or as a teenager in your formative years, and it was essential to your identity and essential to who you are, and you impose so much meaning on it that almost what the object is irrelevant. And it kind of like you put yourself into it and you find yourself through it, and it's ultimately you, not it. And kind of, which is something that is very interesting about the relationship between a person and a piece of art. And it left me in pieces. It left me kind of devastated and heartbroken. So I will double down on Marty's recommendation of it.
Yeah.
Like if you are but I guess with the warning of this is a wonderful feel bad movie.
Oh yeah.
Not an upper. And I'm somehow less of an upper than the Iron Claw, to be clear. And the Iron Claw has a much higher body count.
I'm all down for a feel bad movie, especially like because if you know that going in, you can prepare. Okay, I can get tissues in my pocket. Like I can have an Uber take me home.
Yeah. But if you're just like, listen, I want a couple goofs for now, go to Hundreds of Beavers. Don't go to the TV Glow.
Jack, the one guy in the theater for I saw the TV Glow, being like, hilarious! I love it.
The guy who enters the theater in his tuxedo and then puts it down. Like, listen, you just went to the movies on a Saturday night. You don't need to wear a tuxedo here. You want to pivot over to TV? Talk about shows we've been watching. And
sure.
Yeah.
We got a lot
of TV. Jack, I want to start off. I want to work our way from the bottom to the top. I want to talk about Reacher. You're in your Reacher. You're in your Reacher era.
Okay. You're watching Reacher.
He's reaching.
First of all, you are such a dad.
One, I am an actual dad.
Yeah.
2, And we might have talked about this somewhere before, but like every once in a while you want something, that, like you said about I saw the TV glow. You want something complicated. You want something deep. You want something nuanced, right? You like that in your art, and every once in a while in your art, you want the bad guys to be bad and the good guys to be super smart and punch the bad guys in the face. And that's what Reacher is. Reacher is Beefcake Columbo, and I cannot recommend it enough because it is so simple.
Have you
so big
seen
He's
that?
so big.
I don't know who did it. He is so big. Have you seen that video? That video of the guy explaining what Reacher is to millennials? Because you're going to have to go home for Thanksgiving and talk to your dad, and your dad has seen Reacher. It's one of the best pieces of cultural criticism that I have ever seen, and I shouldn't acknowledge this. Like, I'm a critic, and I am envious of this video because he explains so succinctly what the appeal of Reacher is. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Most stories, most heroes, are small, and they face big problems. So you're watching Star Wars, and you're Luke Skywalker. He's just a farm boy, and he's dealing with a threat that is the literal size of the moon. That's so big. How can this small man deal with this? Frodo, he's got to take the ring to Mount Doom. He's such a small man. How's he going to do it? Whereas on the other hand, the thing about Reacher, you look at Reacher and you're like, he's a big guy. There's no problem on this earth that is so big that Reacher cannot handle it. There's no situation that Reacher will ever be put in where you'll look at it and go, man, this looks like a problem too big for Reacher. No. The beauty of Reacher is that no matter what the problem is, when Reacher shows up, problem's a small problem by comparison. Yeah. And that is the appeal of Reacher as drama. That is what resonates about Reacher. That is why Reacher speaks to all of us in these uncertain times. And I'm like, that is the best bit of criticism that I have. Give it the Pulitzer now. Yeah.
Honestly, I was having a conversation with someone recently about why I genuinely enjoy romantic comedies. I genuinely do like romantic comedies because life is complicated. Sometimes you want to know how the story is going to end before you start it. And Reacher was that. Is Beefcake man solving crimes, and he's going to win. He's going to be right. He saves a puppy at one point. Like, he does all the things the hero does, and the bad guys are so bad that you don't mind it when they get punched in the face.
Yeah, his punches. Oh, he's got so many muscles behind those punches.
Well, I mean, there's no situation where like in most movies there's a moment where a big guy gets up and makes the hero look small. Like, think of the big Nazi guy in Raiders of the Lost Ark, where you're like, oh my god, how's Indiana Jones gonna get out? Or the big guy with the sword and he has to shoot him. Like, can you imagine how absurd the guy getting out of the car would have to be to intimidate Reacher?
No, and that is like, that's part of the beauty of it, is like any serialized television show, like, you watch Monk, you watch an episode of Monk, Monk's probably going to win by the end of the episode. No one cares if Monk, doesn't, if he loses, because we want Monk to win. Reacher is going to thank you for Eric for showing him.
Yeah, he found the dog scene. Yeah,
he found the puppy. Like, Reacher will win every episode, every time. Very few casualties on the good guy end, and it's we need that every once in a while. Just a dumb.
I like that you clarified on the good guy end there. To be clear, it's like being in a car accident with an SUV. It's more likely to happen, but more likely to be fatal. But for the people in the other car,
like one of my very favorite Coen Brothers movies is Barton Fink. And in Barton Fink, the story is like this famed New York playwright gets called to Hollywood to make his big Hollywood picture. We just want you to make a simple wrestling picture. The good guy wins, the bad guy loses. And Barton Fink spends the entire movie trying to make his art house masterpiece in the wrestling world. And spoiler alert for Barton Fink, at the end they're just like, this is too complicated. We need a wrestling picture. And Reacher is a wrestling picture. And I love it.
Yeah, there's something just beautiful and simple about it. You're like, okay, this is nice. Like, I'm just happy that the world can be simple sometimes, and sometimes just being strong does fix things. Honestly, just
what if there was a big man and he was kind? Problems. Yeah.
And he was real nice. He's just a real. I was gonna say a gentle giant, but no, he's a very angry giant. But he's gentle to nice people. So.
And he's smart. He's nice. He's smart. All of his friends are very competent. It's he's gonna win. Not everything needs to be complicated.
Of all the other shows we have listed here, everything else is some form of complicated. And
yeah, morally ambiguous, conflicted. Like, yeah,
right.
Who do we root for in this?
Like, I mean, I'm rewatching. I've talked about this on a stream earlier. I'm rewatching Parks and Rec now, and one of the reasons I'm loving it, on rewatch again, is just because like everyone is so great and nice and pure. Like even when they're like goofs and when they like dunk on each other, like by the time you get into the show and the characters realize who they are and the actors really have like a handle on the characters, it's just like, oh, you are all the best of us. Like this world would be better off if you were the people running things instead of
that's all Mike Schur shows. Like that's Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
The Good Place.
That's the Good Place as well. Yeah,
which is beautiful. And it's like, I think like Reacher exists in a perfect world, or in this world that we have that is a perfect counterbalance. Ready for a segue to something like The Boys, right? Which is this like, oh, this gray. Where do we live? And what are our heroes? Are our heroes actually the bad guys? Whoa,
yeah.
Like.
But what if even the people who are real heroes in this show, in that they're fighting the bad guys, are also bad guys themselves?
Yeah.
Like, what if everybody is a bad guy?
What if everybody just kind of sucks? Which, we need both.
I haven't been watching this season of The Boys. You're caught up, right, Darren?
I am. I've seen the entire season. So
I
need to be careful. You need to tell me what episode we're on so I don't spoil anything.
I don't even.
Okay.
I haven't watched it. I'm just waiting for it to be done to binge it all.
Well, here's what I will say about The Boys. What I'm very happy about. I also have not seen any of the new season. I'm probably going to kind of wait till it's done and binge. I'm very happy that they're saying one more season and then we're done. I was really worried that they were going to just treadmill that for a while and run out of steam, but they have an ending in mind and now they are working towards that ending. Congratulations, The Boys.
And they do. And like you can tell watching the season as a whole that it's very much a season where they were like, please, Amazon, let us end. Like they're like, the writers are like, look, this story needs to end. And like without getting too into it and talking about the fourth season, so episode 6 is where we're at. So I'm going to be very careful here. But like one of the big central plot points of the great shot, Eric. I really appreciate that, having that image in my frame of view.
It's just milk. There's nothing weird about it.
There's nothing weird. No, just enjoy
it. It's just a little milk. It's just a little milk. Listen, if you don't have the context, just a nice little milk.
Yeah, nice little milk. Mother's milk. But yeah, so apparently, so it's the dungeon scene. So it's the Spider-Man stuff. It's the Batcave stuff. Okay, so I think I can orient myself. So the first, and we're committing to the bit. Thank you, Eric. But yeah, we're going all in. We're really milking this bit, if you will. It's an utter disgrace. But anyway, sorry, I'm being a bit of a tit. I apologize. Yeah, but okay, so.
I think my favorite part of The Boys is all of because I like really horror elements, and there's a lot of dismemberment. Several characters lactose.
I like it.
For a second, I thought you were trying to veer us away, and then I'm like, no, he's pulling us back in.
Want to shout out to Seth and Lee made the point that it's basically as close as you'll get to a Paul Verhoeven TV show, and I think that's entirely correct.
Yeah.
Where it is, it's about America, but it's also really graphic and really violent, and it's also really pulpy. But to get to the point about the fourth season. The fourth season begins with Huey's father, played by Simon Pegg, having a stroke and being hospitalized. And there's this big debate throughout the season of whether or not you pull the plug and you let him die gracefully on his own terms in his own time. And that feels like it is a metaphor for the show working through its own idea of it, as Jack said, needing to end. And obviously, the ending of the third season is that Billy Butcher is told that he has 1 year left to live. And again, that's another sense of the show going, man, maybe these characters just need to fucking die.
Yeah.
And I do it is an interesting thing for a fourth season because you can tell Kripke announced, you said that he announced before the season premiered, but he also indicated that he couldn't announce until before the premiere because he was still negotiating with Amazon, which means that while they were producing this season, he was arguing with Amazon about the idea of the show needing to end. And the fourth season is kind of caught in that gravity where Homelander, for most of the season, Homelander is I've really done all of the shit I could possibly want to do. I'm massively successful. I'm a CEO. I've made millions and millions of dollars. There is nobody who can challenge me. Nothing is going to upset the status quo. It doesn't matter what happens. I'm going to continue to exist because this show is going to run in perpetuity. And the fourth season is very much that is an existential nightmare. And obviously, there's a thematic political point there, which is the idea of what it is like to live in a state of constant political chaos. chaos. I can't, as an Irish person, I can't imagine what that's like. What would it be like to live in a political system where like you were living in a state of perpetual uncertainty about what the future was going to hold? I can't really imagine. And if only there were some nation on Earth that were reckoning with something like that right now, up until around about November-ish. Don't know what nation that would possibly be. But you do have this kind of sense of the show being also like, it needs to wrap up. If this show is going to have a satisfying ending dramatically, we need to be able to like line up the planes in order to land them appropriately. We need to like decide that we're going to end in 10 episodes. And therefore begin lining up all of the balls that need to, go in the goal. And we need to like basically be able to say, we will be done by the end of the 5th season. We don't need to set up any threads that will continue on. We don't need to worry about any long-term plans. Mm-hmm. And I do think that you can see in the 4th season, the show navigating the complexity of wanting to do that, but also understanding that Amazon is going to take some very serious convincing to end what is probably their second or perhaps even first most successful multimedia franchise.
It's a highly regarded show. It's talked about a lot, and overall I think it's a very good show. But yes, this is basically the 4th season. You are confirming what I was worried about, which is that treadmill running, which is like, we're doing stuff. Maybe we're inching a little bit closer to stuff, but we're just going to spin our wheels for a little bit, which I genuinely hate in a complete narrative. Obviously there are serialized shows that can go wherever they want and happen in their own time, but The Boys feels like it should have an ending.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And to the show's credit, it gets there in the end of the season. But like the season does feel like it's a debate happening in real time. It's like, I feel like the better thing would be for you not to have the debate and just make the decision. But it's like you also understand that the debate is actually happening as they're making the show. Sorry, Marty.
No. And it is funny because even though like the show is coming to the end, the franchise obviously clearly is not. Like that's
Gen V, Diabolic.
Yeah. Are they doing like a South of the Border?
Of course they are.
I think they are. With one of the guys from Me Too Mama Tambien.
Gail Garcia Bernal.
I think so. It's called The Boys, Mexico.
Are you sure that's not just Narcos?
Yeah. Diego Luna. The Boys, Mexico.
I love that it's like we're just stealing from the Netflix playbook. It's like they did Narcos Mexico, we could do The Boys Mexico. Insane.
What is Boys in Hermanos? The Hermanos?
Hermanos. That
might be
like
brother.
Getting into Breaking Bad. Yeah, that's brother. It feels like getting into Breaking Bad territory there. But like, it is going to run, and like that's the irony of this is that this is a show about like how evil capitalism is, and about a large faceless corporation that exerts far too much influence and has far too much power and far too much money, that is also made by a large corporation that has far too much influence and far too much money and far too much power. And so you have, again, that wonderful element of, at what point does this stop being funny and start being incredibly depressing? Like, at what point is it funny that Amazon is making a show about how evil Amazon is, and start being sad that I am paying money to Amazon to watch a show about how evil Amazon is,
Yeah.
How do you feel about that when like you saw that in like Warner Brothers and Space Jam, and Disney will do that every once in a while, where it's like, oh no, look, we're critiquing ourselves, and it's like, well, are you like this? Like,
you're still charging me for the ticket. You're still selling, like Warner Brothers is selling the Guy Fawkes masks from V for Vendetta. Time Warner gets a cut off those. So every anti-capitalist march is like funding Time Warner or AT&T or Warner Discovery or whatever the corporate daddy is at the moment.
Yeah.
Pivoting to more of the big shows of the year. Jack, I know you and I have both finished, and some caliber have enjoyed Delicious in Dungeon. Darren, do you know about Delicious in Dungeon? Have you watched any Delicious in Dungeon?
I also haven't watched The Bear, so you guys will be.
Oh, neither of the food. I don't think Jack's watched The Bear.
Okay, so I'll let you guys have a heated discussion about it.
Here, before we get into Delicious in Dungeon, just because we can't necessarily have a conversation about The Bear, from what I have heard about The Bear from someone who is currently watching season 2, apparently it's reverse Demolition Man, which I'm very excited about, in which hoity-toity, whom I assume is the titular bear, tries to clean up a dirty restaurant. So,
Yeah, it is.
Great pitch. Like it's like reverse Demolition Man.
Yeah.
You frame it like that.
There you go.
And he's in the Iron Claw. He's not God's most perfect idiot, though.
No, he's Jeremy Allen White, isn't he?
Yeah.
All I know is the internet loves that man because he is hunky and sad. So
he is hunky and sad. Yeah, and we won't go into to depths on the bear. I'll probably talk about the bear with Frost at some point because I know we both have a lot of thoughts about it. But
no, you can be unbearable here.
The unbearable weight of unbearable weight of massive talent. The first two seasons I think are like near perfect. I think they're incredible. This was also a show that it filmed seasons 3 and 4 back to back, and I don't know if they've officially announced if that's going to be the end, but I kind of get the feeling it's going to be the end, and that this is very much a first half of a final chapter. And so there's a lot of like we said with the boys. It feels like a lot of wheel spinning, a lot of like these characters made a lot of progress in season 1 and in season 2, and now we're in season 3, and there's just a lot of kind of lingering in line and waiting for something to happen. Still think it's gorgeous. Still think it has moments of like absolute brilliance. The clear love they have for the city of Chicago in shooting it there is. It's one of those rare things where you see a movie and you're like, oh, that's clearly shot in that place, and these people love that place, where it feels like a little bit like a travelogue. Yeah, and you're like, this is worth it. The terrible movie Under Paris. Darren, did you see Under Paris?
No. Oh, is that the shark movie?
Yeah, it's Jaws, but in Paris.
They should have called that was it Champs Elysees would have been the better name for that.
Oh
one, I think.
My God!
Shark de Triomphe.
What is happening? That is incredible. But anyway, that literally.
I hope
took me
the closing title card should be Finn.
Finn.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say anymore. Why did I even bring up Under Paris? Oh, it was clearly filmed in Paris. It's that like you completely discombobulated me with those. Like I was like, where am I? Are we still alive? No, but it is a movie that no matter how dumb it is, and it's very dumb, it was shot in Paris, and at the very least I was like, oh, this looks nice. Yeah. That's a city I want to go to. But yes, the bear season 3 had a similar thing. Sticking with food, Jack, delicious in Dungeon.
One of the most if you are a fan of adventures, of fantasy in general, Dungeons and Dragons specifically, if you are a fan of that kind of aesthetic and genre, Delicious in Dungeon is an absolute must watch. It is heartwarming and delightful, and they treat food, Ghibli-esque. They treat food with such reverence, and they really like take their time. Kind of like each episode has its own meal that they prepare with the episode, depending on where they are, and it is such a delightful watch by itself. Mm-hmm. But at the end of season 1. They are no closer to achieving their goal than they were at the beginning of season 1. And I'm kind of done with it. Like I'm just
they seem further from achieving their goal, if anything. Yeah.
And it's like, such wonderful characters. We this beautiful, interesting fantasy world. The food, like, listen, you play Dungeons and Dragons and you watch Binging with Babish on YouTube. This is your show. Mm-hmm. But fucking, we need an end. Stories need an end.
Like, it literally almost feels like you get to the end of 20 some episodes and it's like, and here's the beginning of the show. You're like, what?
What? It's a Surf Dracula, isn't that what they call it on Twitter? Where it's like Surf Dracula was a popular TV show in the 60s. Now it's been rebooted for the streaming age, and at the end of the 8th episode, he looks at a surfboard.
Yes, that's exactly what it feels like. Where there is like a wonderful driving point for the plot. There's just a really great heartwarming story, and we have spent 10 plus hours with these folks who are trying very hard to accomplish a goal that is very important to them, and they really should have made some progress by now.
They learned how to make a couple meals.
I do want to shout out, the comments are pointing to One Piece, which has been running thousands of episodes.
Yeah,
even I am tangentially aware of One Piece. That's
of course. Yeah. And by the way, bullshit. How about that? How about bullshit?
If counterpoint, no.
If you are watching a show in which that lasts that many hours and they have not accomplished their goal, that is bullshit. Stories need to have an end.
Get better protagonists. I mean,
they're literally going back and redoing One Piece now, and they're like, no, okay, it's been like 25 years, and we're just going to start at the beginning again, and we're going to redo the animated series, but we'll get caught up quicker. Don't worry, there's all sorts of stuff we can cut out.
They have not finished the story, so instead of finishing the story, they're restarting the stories in different mediums.
That's a different team. Don't worry about it.
Fucking bullshit.
I love the trollishness of that. Like, they should just get so close to the end and just be like, and then flashback 984 episodes ago.
Guys, we've learned a lot about animation since the Clinton administration. We can really draw these fucking pirates. Let's go back to the beginning and draw the pirates again.
It is like, how can you as a viewer watch a character you supposedly like fail over and over and over again?
That's being a sports fan.
I bet to say like that. Yeah, that's
I'm not a sports fan. I'm not a sports fan.
So maybe that explains it.
And mostly like a superhero comic book fan as well. To be fair, like that's the Batman story in short, right?
Yes.
Like, Batman very bad at his job. He's like, I'll sort out crime in Gotham. Yeah.
You haven't done shit, Batman. Yeah. Fucking bullshit.
Somehow it's worse. Like, people weren't being poisoned with poison that makes them grin before you showed up.
We just had regular criminals who were robbing banks, murdering people, and stealing their pearls. You created all these weirdos on the street.
Have you any idea what you've done to our property prices, Batman?
We just had people ripping pearls off of ladies before. That's it. Maybe someone got shot here or there, but now we have people blowing up entire neighborhoods.
Do you have any idea what the stats are on blimp crime since you've shown up?
Also, everyone should have realized when a bad guy came who was just man bat, and they're like, "This one's definitely on you. This guy's clearly inspired by you."
Yeah. No, and like also like I understand the production logistics of a manga or of an anime. Like that's their whole thing. They go on for a very long time. From a storytelling perspective, I want my stories to end. I
want my stories and I want my meals to have endings.
Yes. It's so to me, like, while I've enjoyed every single episode of this first season of Delicious in Dungeon, it's been like, honestly, it is a treat for me. Ooh, it's Thursday. I get a new Delicious in Dungeon. I make a whole thing of it. It's like just a little treat for me, but I want my stories to end.
You call them your stories as well, like you're 85 years old.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
By the time you're calling them your stories, you want them to end because you're aware of the ticking clock of mortality.
I'm not going to be able to see the end of
this. I'm going to die sooner than later.
My stories.
So at least that
Matlock.
Monk ended.
Everything is held up against the monk bar.
The monk.
I thought Star Trek ended.
Around, yeah.
And they took Star Trek. I was like, oh, at least Star Trek's over. Fuck.
Yeah.
Well, like that's is it the Wired article from like 2015, which is like one of those like big eye-opening moments for me, which is you will not live to see the last Star Wars movie. And that is like a moment where I'm like, this is just what pop culture is now.
Yeah.
I have just accepted this. Yeah. Nothing ends.
Nothing ends, and I'm so checked out of so much of it where I thought things might end now, and they're not.
So it feels like a fitting segue to one of the last, and we're going to go over the last few shows and then get to the final super chats.
We've been very productive today.
No, we have, but no, this one makes sense. There was a show I loved, possibly my favorite show of this year, earlier this year, that I thought ended, and I thought had a great ending. And then they announced, we're bringing everyone back and we're doing more of it. And that was Shogun. So Shogun ends. And
because it's based on a book.
It's based on a book and it ends. And then I was like, oh, wow, they're just one season. They're going in. It was a huge hit week to week. Everyone talking about it. And they're just done. I'm like, I'm really proud of them. And then sure enough, I wake up Monday morning and they're like, yeah, we're coming back for more. We don't know what it is yet. We don't know if it's gonna be the same. If we're gonna definitely not some of the same cast is coming back, but like no one knows what
it
this
was
thing
just
is.
A flesh wound.
I mean, my hope is that they come back with the same cast and just tell a completely different story and just recast everyone.
That would be like my pitch for it would be, because obviously they're based at James Clavell's like Asia, which is, by the way, like I love the arrogance of like a British author being like, I've got a series of books. It's called the Asia series.
Yeah,
it's just it's Asia. That's what the books are.
Knock out a couple books, everything you need to know.
Oh, about Asia. But it's basically the history of like Japan over the course of centuries. And I would love to see, like, because obviously Shogun has been adapted a couple of times because it was the classic miniseries from the 1980s. I would love to see them do like a Fargo-esque thing where they just take the ensemble and just kind of recast them and do another book, like from the same author, because it'll have the same style, bring back the same writing team, the same cast, shoot in the same locations or whatever, and just have it be set like a couple of hundred years afterwards, like, and just deal with a different period of Japanese history. But a part of me worries that it'll just be Shogun 2.0, you know.
And how great would it be to have the actors be able to play against what you think they're gonna play? Like have like Hiroyuki Sanada play a way different character, or Cosmo
Eric,
Jarvis.
I don't know if that is culturally sensitive, but I'll allow it. Don't know if I'm technically committing a hate crime, but okay.
It's Eric committed the hate crime. It's fine. Everything will be I thought
for context, by the way, for anyone who's just listening to this, Eric put a little digital hat on Darren. Nothing, you know.
Yeah, no.
I
know, because when somebody declares like that's a hate crime on audio, we should be clear. To be clear,
I would immediately go to something way worse, but no, it's fine.
That's what I'm just saying. Just a little hat.
It's good to be clear. A hat and a hat.
But yeah, what did you think of Shogun, the show itself, Darren?
I really loved it. It was really wonderful. It was like one of the big surprises of the year because there was relatively little fanfare. I got the kind of previews of it. To be fair, Disney did sell it really hard when they sent on the screeners. They were like, "You're going to want to talk about this, or you're going to want to read about this," and I did, and it was amazing. Like, there've been a couple instances I want to shout out, like because there is so much media. There've been a couple instances this year where like PR people have reached out to me and said, "Here's a screener," and then I've ignored them, and they've got back and said, "You really should watch the screener." And they've mostly been correct. Shogun was one of those cases where like Shogun arrived for me in January and I was just blown away. I watched the whole season before anybody got to see it. And I was like, this is something special. And it was actually just really great to see everybody kind of connect to it the way that I hoped they would. Because there are times when you get previews of things or you see screeners of things ahead of time, like say Ripley, the adaptation of The Talented Mr. Ripley starring Andrew Scott.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, but it also just like disappears into the ether once it gets released. Whereas like Shogun, I watched it and I was like, this is amazing. And it was like just really great to get to experience in real time everybody discovering how wonderful and how like brilliant it was and how much they loved the characters and the performances and how engaging it was. I had a really, really, really great time with it. I thought it was just an exceptionally well-made piece of television.
And again, the power of week to week as opposed to just vomiting everything all at once. And it feels like the conversation is over, you know, within a week. Like this felt like it just kept gaining momentum and more people were watching, and then something crazy had happened in an episode and tell their friends to watch and they'd get caught up and everything.
Almost like TV is a model that works and is sustainable, and maybe we shouldn't have broken it without figuring out what we're going to replace it with, but I don't know.
Nah, can't be that. Can't be that.
It's almost as if this method of producing media that developed over the course of decades has some merits to it as an art form.
Can't possibly be that. Want to chat really quick about House of the Dragon? What thoughts are at this point in the season before we get to the final wonderful batch of super chats?
Looking for some hot takes?
Yeah, House of the Takes.
I'm liking it a lot. It's very easy watching. It's very well made. The cast are very charming and charismatic, and I do think that it is doing some interesting stuff with regards to that thing you mentioned about Civil War, which is that idea of, and again, not to generalize and make some broader comment about the media that we seem to be watching and the general atmosphere in which it seems to be produced, but there's a real vibe of like, you know, maybe Civil War is kind of inevitable. That seems to be like permeating so much media right now. Like the main message of media seems to be, you know what? Maybe brother will kill brother, and maybe nations will collapse into each other, and maybe empires will fall. And you know what? Shit happens. Like it's such a weird thing to watch because you watch so many movies and television, and it really does seem like, is everybody okay? you guys need to like talk to somebody. Is there something you guys are working through maybe in your media? And I do actually really like the
Reacher folks are okay. Reacher folks are great.
The Reacher folks seem very chill. They're like, just a big guy will come along and solve the problem. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, we need
more big guys. But like that, I think Marty made the point earlier on. Like there is something I really love about the idea of inevitability that runs through the show, where like the characters don't really have agency, and it seems like the civil war is going to happen no matter what the characters want, because of, again, a series of dominoes, actions, reactions, consequences that are not necessarily intended or planned or desired or motivated, but are just inevitable, whether they come from the bottom up, so it's the smaller houses taking the opportunity of the feud to feud amongst themselves and therefore drive the larger houses to war, whether it's the dragons that don't seem to follow any commands, whether it's the kings who can't lead their nations, but who also decide to ride into battle unannounced and therefore break any sense of formation or tactical strategy that's going on. And I do think there is something very compelling there. I will say one big complaint I have about House of the Dragon: it's afraid to let Rhaenyra and Daemon be like truly monstrous. Like it is a show. Yeah. It's a show about this idea of civil war being inevitable and how pointless civil war is and how it's going to destroy this house and royalty and how it has no real consequence whatsoever because it's a prequel to Game of Thrones. And by the time Game of Thrones starts, we know that there isn't a Targaryen sitting on the throne. So we know that everything these characters are fighting for is, from the basic premise of Game of Thrones, completely pointless. But the show is reluctant to commit to the idea that its characters are all entirely reprehensible human beings with no redeeming features whatsoever. And so it kind of like, it's like, but what if, and hear us out here, what if one of these royal people who's willing to burn the entire country to the ground in order to sit on a throne made of iron, what if she's not a bad person? And I'm like, I feel like the options are either she's a bad person or she has no agency whatsoever. And I would much rather watch an interesting bad person than a character with no agency whatsoever.
Yeah, I think they were very worried about not giving audiences that sort of
Daenerys thing
Jon
again.
Snow. Yeah, someone to latch onto and be like, oh, this is my North Star in this show. Whereas, I was even talking to my mom about it, and she was referring to like certain characters, not by their name, but who as like, oh, on the good side. I'm like, I think they failed if there's a clear good side and a bad side of this. I don't think that's what this is supposed to be. Yeah. But yeah, no, I do. That aside, I do agree with Darren. It's especially in the second season, it gained its confidence in its acting, its direction. It feels like the budget's higher because really, this last episode was great. Had a great time with it. Yeah, dragons. Who knew? Put a bunch of dragons in a show. Cool shit happens. You ever see Dragonheart? Sean Connery was a dragon in that film.
Dennis Quaid.
Yeah.
Sean Connery.
He named the voice of the dragon. Yeah.
He named the dragon Draco, and then Sean Connery's like, actually, that's racist because that's just dragon in a different language. I remember that movie.
Can't do that.
That's locked in there, by the way.
Double feature.
Like, you've forgotten like the birthdays of close friends, but you remember that
100%. Yeah. I'll walk into the other room, forget why I walked in there. Remember Dragonheart. Don't worry.
Yeah. Scene by scene, line by line. Rain of Fire. I want to shout out Rain of Fire.
He gives the kid a piece of his dragon heart to save the kid, but then the kid's bad. What?
Is titular Dragonheart?
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Gives him the titular Dragonheart.
Yeah,
the Dragonheart. We're gonna have Dragon Week here. By the end of the year, we'll have Dragon Week. We'll watch Rain of Fire.
It's like Willow Week. Is this like Willow Week where it's just it lasts as long
but then if we can't do a week again because we're gonna get the show canceled and literally removed
from existence. You cannot watch it anymore.
So I guess if we want to do it,
like that's too much enthusiasm. Yeah, like this.
If we want to do it tactily, like we can look at a show we would just want wiped from existence.
I'm adding Dragonheart to our potential list of maybe that's a movie we can watch for Patreon movie night.
I think that's great.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
Let's jump over to Super Chats, shall we?
Yeah, let's do that.
Drago, thank you so much. Speaking of names that kind of sound like dragons, Drago. Drago, thank you so much. With 10,000. Paraguayan Guarani. First time I've ever said that currency out of my mouth. Thank you so much for the dono. Cheers, lads. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
George Lucas.
You say it out of your mouth as if you've implied that you've secreted it from another organ.
I've whispered wins before.
That was me saying it out of my nose.
Yeah.
That was good. That was like a little Yoda voice. Sir George Lucas with €2. Thank you so much. Anyone remember Shoot 'em Up? starring Clive Owen. I remember he ate carrots and he killed a man with a carrot in that film at one point.
Is Shoot 'Em Up the one with Jared Butler as well?
No, I think it's Paul Giamatti. I get the two of them confused all the time.
Paul Giamatti and Jared Butler, and they're fighting over a baby.
Yeah.
No, it's not Jared Butler. It's
Clive Owen.
Is Shoot 'Em Up Jared Butler? Is that the one? Or Smoking Aces? Smoking Aces.
Yes,
that's not fighting over a baby. No, Smoking Aces is everyone. That's like Ryan Reynolds.
I'm thinking of
Andy
Player.
Garcia.
Is it Player? Sorry.
So anyway, back to Dragonheart.
Yeah.
Back to Drag. What was Gerard Butler up to? He was in a Dredge, wasn't he? Was he Dredge? No, that was Carl
Gamer.
Urban.
That's what I'm thinking of the movie.
Gamer.
I'm thinking of Gamer. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, fake ass gamer over here.
Carl Urban was Dredd.
Carl Urban was Dredd, and he plays
in Dredd.
What's his name?
Billy Butcher in the book.
He plays Billy Butcher, and he also plays one of the guys in Lord of the Rings and stuff as well.
The Rohirrim.
He's the horseman. He's
and
also
McCoy. He's the real McCoy.
He is the titular Doom guy in Doom.
Yeah, starring Dwayne the Rock Rocky Maivia Johnson.
Yeah, that's right.
That has a first-person scene.
And Rosamund Pike, right?
Rosamund Pike. What a movie! It's really bad. The Doom movie's very bad.
Yeah, no.
Both Doom movies are very
bad.
The
Rock is The Rock bad actor?
Yes.
Is he not doing the Benny Safdie movie?
That's the thing. I think he's a bad actor. I think he's going to release a banger this year with one of the Safdie bros. But I'm wondering if
the Pain Machine or something.
Pain Machine, yeah.
Pain Machine.
And he looks very different. He looks very strange in it. And I guess one Safdie, a lone Safdie could work. We got.
It's like a lone Cohen, is it? Like it's like a lone Cohen or
or
a lone Farley. Hey, look, Lone Farley won the Best Picture Oscar. To be fair, so anything you can live your dreams.
Alone Wachowski gave us the new Matrix, right? Like it can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Damn. Polished T with a $2 dono. Thank you so much. Oh, do we have any thoughts on Shoot 'Em Up?
No.
Other than we didn't know what it was, and I'm pretty sure he eats carrots and kills a man with a carrot in that movie at one point.
That was our Shoot 'Em Up bit. Yeah.
Polished T, thank you so much for the $2 dono. Favorite Neil Breen bonus for favorite line. I feel like this is a Jack question.
Oh, hold on. Every once in a while, I don't know why my computer does this. I have my volume mixer open on Windows, and the volume mixer is telling me that audio is coming from Discord, but I cannot hear you. So I have to mute you and unmute you. It is not your fault.
It's because the computer's a liar. Yeah.
It is not your fault. I have no idea why it does that. So favorite Neil Breen what?
Favorite Neil Breen movie, and do you have a favorite Neil Breen line?
Fateful Findings is the best Neil Breen movie. It's that perfect mix of like his big ideas and his ego, but he didn't quite like have the budget and nothing. Not everything is on green screen. So Fateful Findings, and from Fateful Findings, it's a magical day. They find a notebook in a magical forest, and in the notebook it says it's a magical day. So there you go.
I have never seen a Neil Breen movie. I'm going to be honest. I should have, but I haven't.
Fateful Findings is the one to watch. Yeah.
There you go. You got Breened.
You got Breened.
Quintuple A with a $10 dono. Thank you so much, Quintuple A. Have to join a work call 30 minutes in, and I cannot express my joy at seeing you three together again. Aw, thank you, Quintuple. That's very kind of you.
Thank you. I hope you're listening back to this after your work call.
There you go. I'm going to be honest. I think he sent that like an hour and a half ago, so it's very
okay. So hopefully the work call.
Yeah, he's already eaten dinner, already tucked in for the night. Polished T with a $2 dono. Quibi or Movie Pass? Which was the funnier failure? I'll stand by Movie Pass every day because it was such a great deal that I knew was going to eventually fail, but I utilized the fuck out of it for like a good 9 months, and it was great.
Yeah. I obviously that didn't exist in Ireland, but it does seem like it's one of those things where it's too good to be true, so you therefore accelerate its eventual collapse.
Sure,
like everybody.
I kept telling my friends about it, and I'm like, it is literally the greatest deal ever, but it will not exist in 6 months. So like, hop on now
quickly
and just get ready to hop off when I tell you. Like, I'll keep an eye on this.
Leverage that debt, motherfucker.
I would have loved to have seen their math like before this launch to be like, this is our projections. Clearly, no one will see enough movies to make us lose money. Clearly.
Yeah.
Clearly, look at
Yeah.
our math.
What was it with the all-you-can-eat shrimp type situation with Red Lobster?
Yeah.
It's there's no way this is a
There's no
loser.
way.
There's no way anybody can eat that much shrimp.
Exactly. But it was
Sounds
like their math was something like if someone sees 2 movies a week, we're sunk. Whereas like, who are you? It was their math was terrible.
And we were seeing stuff in downtown San Francisco where like IMAX tickets for like $25. I'm like, no,
Exactly.
movie pass or not.
And then
Movie pass.
Go. It was so stupid. It's having someone in charge of Movie Pass who clearly does not go to see movies.
Well, every once in a while, I'd go say I wouldn't even go to the movie. I would just buy a ticket with Movie Pass for free, and I just want to boost its box office numbers. There was like a little indie that I'm like, listen, didn't like your first weekend. I'm gonna give you a little help in the second weekend.
I'm not even going to go into the cinema.
Oh, you can do it from home. It was great.
Yeah.
I'm shocked it didn't work. Jason Tudor with a $5 million. Not technically 2024, but my favorite watch of 2024 is Hundreds of Beavers. Haven't laughed so hard in decades, and I can't get anyone to watch it. I don't know if that was before or after we talked about it, but Jason, you have Hundreds of Beavers allies here.
Yeah, we're with you. Also, like if you liked Hundreds of Beavers, the movie they made before that, the Lake Michigan monster, similar vibes. Not quite like they didn't hit the polish, but the the filmmaker invited me to a screening here in Milwaukee at the Downer Theater, so I got to see that in a theater, and it, very very cute, very quaint, but it is definitely like, oh, this crawled so Hundreds of Beavers could walk. So
that's great. I used to live a block away from the Downer Theater. I'd go to that Starbucks in the bookstore. It used to be called Henry Schwartz. I don't know if Henry Schwartz died, but it used to be called Henry Schwartz. Too Much TV, $1 donation. Thank you so much, Too Much TV. Also, no such thing as Too Much TV. Guy on Couch, thank you for the dono. Yo, finally got an entertainment podcast. The transition feels complete. I promised myself I'd make my first donations when you guys finally had one, or had a 1-year anniversary, whichever came first. I'm sorry it took us so long.
It was close.
I'm sorry. We were getting weirdly close. But appreciate that. Welcome back. Darwin's dummy with a $2 dono. Following Poor Things talk, sexiest Disney movie, Lady and the Tramp. That was
sexiest Disney movie or sexiest Disney character?
I think they just said movie. I mean, you can answer it whatever way you want. You're the host.
Beauty and the Beast seems to be the consensus pick. I'm not judging. And Beast not really my type, but I know a lot of people who are very in. Now, keep in mind, it may also just be that I attract a certain kind of person who is.
Hell yeah! Oh, you're picking those numbers up.
Yeah,
you're picking those numbers up.
Yeah, hold on. Just
look at that hair.
There, yeah, there we go.
Okay, maybe you can settle this. On a stream the other week, we started talking about Beauty and the Beast, and I'm very pro Gaston.
He's the best
Are you pro
Disney
or
villain.
anti-Gaston? Oh no, I'm just pro Gaston. I'm just like
in general. Are you like the Beast kidnapped that woman and Gaston tried to save her? Gaston is an ally, is what Gaston
hero of
is.
his story. Yeah, hero of his story.
But Gaston is great, like one of the great Disney villains, and that song, Gaston, is one of the great Disney villain songs, along with Hellfire from the Hunchback of Notre Dame. But yeah, just in my experience, generally speaking, the people who I have had this conversation with have almost unanimously been like Beauty and the Beast is the sexiest Disney movie. And it's like, I don't know if that's selection bias because they end up with this.
Yeah.
But,
Candelabras. There's something inherently sexy about candelabras.
I think that is the movie.
In front or behind them?
I think that might be the Disney movie that spends the most time on the relationship. Like Little Mermaid, unbalanced, to say the least. Same with Sleeping Beauty and Snow White. That is an unbalanced relationship. And so, like, Beauty and the Beast is one of those movies where it's like, oh, we get to see them grow as a couple, and nothing is sexier than slow progress towards open communication.
Yeah. Absolutely agree with you there. That was beautiful. Brandon McDonald with a $20 dono. Thank you so much, Brandon McDonald. Hello, guys. Have you all seen the movie Kidnapped, directed by Marco Bellocchio, about Eduardo kidnapping by the Catholic Church? A very fascinating movie about religious indoctrination. By the way, Gladiator 2, looking good.
I have not seen the movie that Spielberg wanted to make. Out of curiosity, and again, I feel like I'm asking the wrong question, but like,
I've never even heard of it.
Spielberg wanted to make a movie about a kid who was kidnapped by the Catholic Church and kind of indoctrinated. I don't know if it was the same one. Interesting. for years. So I've not seen it. I didn't know that it
Oh,
had been made.
it was at it competed for the Palme d'Or at last year's Cannes.
Okay. No, I missed that one, unfortunately.
Yeah. But then agreed. The Gladiator 2 trailer came out this morning, and I think it looks like a Gladiator 1 remake. But he's like, oh well, there's stuff I didn't get to do the first time, like somehow flood the Colosseum and have a cool boat fight in the middle of the arena, which I don't get. I don't get at all. But
They used to do that. Apparently that.
Did they? That looks sick as hell. Yeah, it looks great. Good cast. Yeah.
Yep.
Denzel looks cool.
I'm incredibly skeptical of Gladiator 2, but I have to say the trailer kind of won me over in large part because it actually looks like Gladiator is the thing. Like many modern blockbusters in general, but many of like Ridley Scott's modern movies kind of have this washed out gray cinematography to them. And I was kind of worried that when he was doing Gladiator 2 it would have that kind of feel, but it does have that sepia tinted, looks like actual film look to it from what I saw of it. And yeah, Denzel Washington is going to bring down the Roman Empire, which is I'm all on board with.
Shout out to Denzel.
Yeah.
Pure Pyro with a €2 dono. Have you guys seen Love Lies Bleeding? I saw it, and you wrote about it earlier this year, right?
I don't think I wrote about it.
Did we just talk about it? Oh, maybe we just
talked about it.
Yeah.
Again, this is one of those things where it's like I saw the TV glow, where it's like I don't know if I'm the voice people want to hear about Love Lies Bleeding. Look, the straight white guy has very important thoughts on Love Lies Bleeding, and I saw the TV glow. Everybody make room. I'm ready to render my verdict. I loved both of them, to be clear. I actually really loved Love Lies Bleeding because obviously it's a wonderful film noir throwback. Great wig acting. One of the great like villainous wig performances since Anton Chigurh from like No Country for Old Men on Ed Harris. Like Ed Harris is one of the great villain wigs. But I want to shout out like one of my favorite things in movies and pop culture in general is that like this has a moment where something terrible happens and like there's a bloody body left on the floor and the characters just stand there contemplating the scene for a second, panicked, nobody expecting the scene to have gone this far. And then one of the characters says, "Hold on, I know a place." And I'm like immediately dialed in. One of the characters in this movie reveals themselves to basically be a Better Call Saul supporting character. And I'm immediately on board with it. Because it initially seems like it's going to be kind of like a fish out of water Western story about a muscle bout. That big girl who comes to town, played by Katie O'Brien, who's gonna like stir shit up. She's gonna like disrupt whatever's going on in this small town. And it very quickly becomes clear that that is not what this movie is at all. And in fact, you should have been watching Kirsten Stewart's kind of like mousy, quiet, reserved gym manager character. And it's just delightful. I had such a good time with it.
This is the same director as Saint Maud, correct?
Saint Maud, yeah.
Yes, which is a must watch as far as I'm concerned. This Love Lies Bleeding is at the very top of my list. I literally had plans to watch it just yesterday, and extra work stuff happened. But it is the next movie. I have a physical list of movies to watch, and Love Lies Bleeding is right there. So my next free couple of hours goes to Love Lies Bleeding. I'm very excited because I very much enjoyed, as much as you can enjoy Saint Maud, I enjoyed Saint Maud.
I watched this on a plane flying to Czechia or flying to Vienna, and like I felt more uncomfortable. It was a bad choice to watch on a plane surrounded by children. But good movie. Yeah.
Do you recommend that's how everyone, that exact flight?
Yeah. If you can get them all back together. It was like that bit, is it like, I think like Manhunter does it, and I think like Mindhunter does it as well, the bit where the police officer falls asleep with the crime scene photos on there. Like, that is exactly how I felt while watching this movie. And I was like, if I turn the iPad so that only I can see it, does that make it better or worse, right? Are the people next to me going to judge me more or less by the fact that like, oh, now he's sensitive about what's being shown on screen?
Beautiful. That's now that is a recommendation. Don't watch around the normies.
Don't watch around. I think that's pretty perfect. Yeah. Slap that on the back of the box. George Lucas with a €2 dono. Thank you so much. Tell me all about these Planet of the Apes movies. I liked Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Not as strong as the two Matt Reeves ones, but I still enjoyed it.
I mean, like the problem is like the two Matt Reeves movies, and I'd arguably throw in like Rise as well, is that they're basically like the perfect blockbusters. They're for my money, the best blockbuster trilogy of the 2010s.
Yeah.
And you have that kind of Fury Road problem or Furiosa problem where like you make a sequel to them that is very good on its own terms, but you're like, it isn't the most perfect blockbuster of the past 10 years.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it, and I actually watched it again today because it came out on digital today and is well worth watching. But it doesn't look as good as the two Matt Reeves movies.
Did it come out on digital today?
It came out in digital today, and like I'm trying. It doesn't include the naked version of the movie, which I'm very excited to see. Which is the version.
There's going to be a version where the monkeys are the actors actually.
They're in the mocap
like
suits.
Yeah.
Like instead of like showing the monkeys, it'll just be people in green suits. And I really want to see that version of the movie just as a piece of performance art.
Absolutely.
But like it's a good movie. I really enjoyed it, but not quite as like perfect as the two Reeves movies. But then again, like Rise wasn't as perfect as the two Reeves movies, so you never know what.
Still very enjoyable.
Yeah.
I have not seen any of the new Apes movies.
Okay,
Never.
They're very good.
And by the way, I have absolutely no desire to like.
But
they did not make it to the top of the list.
Yeah.
No.
They're like you watch them and you go, America, you okay? You feel like you're going through some stuff. Like that's the vibe of those movies, where like you have like Woody Harrelson standing in front of a torn American flag, doing Marlon Brando from Apocalypse Now, saying, "This will not be a nation of apes," and I'm like. Are you guys okay? Is everything okay over there? Like, do you guys need to like just sit back and
wellness
talk
check? No, things aren't okay.
Yeah.
Things are not okay. Yeah, things are deeply not okay. SVS Guru with a €5 dono. Thank you so much, man. I missed another stream. Nonsense, SVS Guru. You're here in our hearts. Pure Pyro with a €2 dono. What did Darren think of season 5 of Fargo? I actually didn't watch season 5 of Fargo.
You haven't watched season 5? I have not seen season 4 of Fargo, but I jumped straight into season 5 because
I didn't even know that was street legal to do that. I know they're all different, but I didn't realize a streaming service would allow you to do that.
Chris Rock and Jason Schwartzman come to your house and they're like, "Excuse us, we did not make an entire season of Fargo for you to jump straight to John Hamm."
Straight to naked John Hamm. Yeah.
Naked John Hamm with nipple rings in a hot tub. In the first episode. No, it's great.
I didn't know he had nipple rings. Good for him.
Yes, it's like it's a choice. It's like there are a lot of choices made this season, which is great. Wonderful. Like really, really, really wonderful. And it's wild that like John Hamm made this and then he did the remake of Mean Girls, which I also thought was very, very good. But like the big change in the remake of Mean Girls is that he plays the coach and the coach is no longer a sexual predator because it's no longer 2003. So it's wild that he's like, okay, but I'm going to do Fargo. And on Fargo, can I be a sexual predator? And Fargo's like, yeah. We got you, John. Like,
just go for it.
We got you. But it's a really wonderful season of television. I thought it was incredible. It is maybe my second favorite season of it after season 2. So I think
season 2 is perfect.
Season 2 is just one of the great seasons of television, and season 5 is like just really, really wonderful. And again, another one of those is America okay TV shows.
And again, we are telling you
we are not. We are being very clear that we are not okay.
We keep repeating that. Red Dwarf with a $5 dono. Thank you so much. Thoughts on Sugar? I like the show. It was instead of the show, it became like Man in the High Castle. Yeah, that was a strange one. I was there for the entire ride, knowing something weird was going to happen, and so I was sort of, without spoiling it, I was prepared for a strange pivot about 2/3 through the show. Colin Farrell is just immensely likable in a sort of modern noir take on got to find the missing girl in L.A. embroiled in the film industry kind of thing. I really enjoyed it, honestly, even with the twist.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the problem with the twist is the twist like changes the plot. Like the twist should just change the theme and the character, but it also changes the plot. Where the like final, as you said, it's 3/4 of the show is a straight up LA noir detective story, and then there's a sharp pivot into a different kind of story. And what you expect to happen is for the show to continue to be a detective show, just with this like different element of it in the background. But instead, the show's like, new show. Like it's just like new stakes. New rules, new character dynamics, new priorities, new like central motivating plot elements, and you're like, no, you can't do that. Like you just
it's rare to pivot genres so sharply in a season. Like I get we're changing season 1 to season 2. It's like, nope, fuck it, we're near the end, we're changing.
But like, and it's obviously it was planned in advance. It's like it does set up. Like I was watching it. I again, I saw it in advance. I knew that there was a twist coming. I do feel like one of the good things about Sugar is like it's one of those shows where knowing there's a twist coming is probably better than not knowing there's a twist coming, because if you watch it not knowing there's a twist coming, you will probably be very pissed that the show doesn't end up being what it initially appears to be. Whereas if you go in and go, somebody tells you you won't believe what happens, there's a fun of like, oh, I'll figure it out. You know, and like I did have like I had a checklist of like there are 3 things I think like Colin Farrell could be like these 3 things, and I'm like checking through the list of possibilities. But is he a reverse vampire? No. Is he a werewolf? No. And it's like you just go through until you
I
land
was
on...
100% sure he was a werewolf the whole show. I went all in. I'm like, this dude's absolutely a werewolf. He looks weird in the moon. He's got to be a werewolf.
He's got a pet dog he seems to communicate with.
Big werewolf energy.
Yeah, and I will say I liked it thematically, but yeah, I think the pivot at the end, just in terms of plot, was too much for me. But it looks gorgeous. The cast is incredible, and as you said, like Farrell is having the time of his life. This is Farrell doing what he did in the Batman, which is like I just really want to be a 1940s character actor, you know, and good for him.
I think this speaks so highly to our kind of what I refer to often as our glittering age of entertainment, where there's all these little sparkles and nothing very tangible. I have never heard of the show before. I have not heard of the show before. You said it right now.
Colin Farrell on
Apple TV.
It stars a major star and apparently is like really good or whatever. But I have never heard of this. So there we go.
It's pretty sweet.
There you go. SBS Guru with a 5-year dono. Oh, you sons of bitches. I see what you did there. Anyway, in his can video, I almost didn't recognize, it's the loudest plane is going over my house right now. I almost didn't recognize Darren without his glasses in a suit. Proves the Clark Kent disguise works.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Is that video up now?
It is. It went up an hour before we went live.
Yeah.
Darren made a lovely little cans travelogue, little video that is up as soon as this podcast is done. Go watch that. It is lovely.
It is great. It has it is 2 of my favorite Darren Darren goofs of the year, and which is
one of which
crazy
is possibly cancelled. One of which is
canceled.
A cancelable offense. Yeah.
But it was really good. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
SBS Guru with a €2 dono. Has Darren watched season 2 of Prodigy?
I have watched the first half of the season of Prodigy. I have not. It's 20 episodes long, and they dropped all of them at once because it's now on Netflix, which is insane. You should not be allowed to do that. Like that should be like legally prohibited. It's like your Wile E. Coyote with your arms open, and then a week before it's due to be released, like Paramount are just like, here you go, 20 episodes. Make your way through it in your own time, please.
Yeah.
I have seen half of it. I quite enjoyed it. I mean, again, I'm very fond of Prodigy. You know, I think it's a very good children's Star Trek show. It's the only Star Trek show that is aimed at a new audience, which is very good. Like, it's the only Star Trek show that exists that is not aimed at people who already love Star Trek and are already love Star Trek enough that they are going to pay for Paramount Plus in order to watch Star Trek, which is ironic because now it's on Netflix. But
very small margin, yeah.
It's a very small margin. I find it really it's, you know, I think it is a kid's show to a certain extent. It is a bit overlong. It's very self-referential in its second season. It's a time travel plot, which is obviously it's fun to do time travel, but it's a time travel plot built around a lot of the mythology of the first season. And I'm a guy who's kind of like, the first season was like 18 months ago. I can't remember. I now remember the entire plot of Dragonheart. I can't remember the first season of Star Trek Prodigy.
Dragonheart just moved up the list. Hold on for a second. There we go. For our movie night, for our Phoenix tier patron movie night. Yeah. Oh, Dragonheart's happening. Yeah.
There you go. Perfect. Fungus Finder with the $2 dono. Is Gladiator going to be good or Beetlejuice 2? Good or bad? I think Gladiator I think is going to be good. Beetlejuice I think is going to be bad.
Yes, but Beetlejuice is also going to make a shed load of money. Is the thing.
There you go.
I suspect like Beetlejuice has a good chance of being the 3rd highest grossing movie of the year.
Shout out to BJ.
I know. I'm not happy. I'm not like Jack. That isn't an endorsement. We talked about how quality and money are two very different.
No, you're
things.
right. You're right.
But like, it's something people are excited about. It's something I think, like you mentioned the big picture. Sean Fennessy was talking about how like at CinemaCon, everyone's like Beetlejuice 2 is where it's at.
Yeah.
People and then like when I was at Cannes in France, where like art house cinema, they were like, but we really like the Beetlejuice.
But also this implies that they now have to make a Beetlejuice, which
of course they probably already commissioned it. Like
course.
It'll be in 3D. They'll bring back 3D. Going over the last couple super chats quick because we are running a half an hour over time.
We are.
Apologize, that's not all of us. Vector with a $2 dono. Dragonheart for movie night. Second that. Boom. Dragonheart keeps moving up the list. Snake in the Garden with a €2 dono. Any thoughts on Green Border? Very sad, but very good. This movie has not played by me. Snake recommended it. I believe it's a Polish movie, but it has not played it's not streaming yet. So
I have not heard of it. I apologize. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it.
When it is streaming, I will watch it and I will have several thoughts.
Great.
That sounded ominous, but I didn't mean
to. I like that you're like sitting there. It's like too many thoughts. Too many thoughts.
Yeah. Just a lot of thoughts.
I won't have many thoughts. I'll have a couple of them.
Just a handful. Just a little sprinkling. Captain President with a $10 dono. Thank you so much. Hear Me Out, a show about a good sexual predator who hunts bad sexual predator called Sexter. Probably no such thing as a good sexual predator, so we're probably not going to greenlight that show. But you know what? There's no bad ideas. That one was close to a bad idea, but no bad ideas.
I did like one of the scenes I cut from the Cannes video was like at the Marché de Cannes. There's a movie called Control, and it has in big letters above the title Kevin Spacey. So it does. No. So he's back, baby.
No!
He's now teaching an acting class, and I think Lithuania as well. Yeah,
I saw that. Like, good for him.
Big tar energy.
Right. The thing that made Dexter work was, sure, he was a murderer, but he murdered murderers. We can't do there's no way to do that within the realm of sexual predators. I'm very sorry, unless he only is a sexual predator to sexual predators, and then
even that not good.
Given how we talk about things like prison, no.
That's fair.
And then CSI Freak with a £20 dono. Thank you so much. I binged Delicious in Dungeon. Delightful, but agree. Seems to be taking one step forward, two steps back. Biggest shout out goes to our big dude Reacher. Darren, and have you seen a preview of Ministry of Gentlemanly Warfare?
The new Guy Ritchie film, I have not actually, and I should have.
Because Reacher's in that, right? Reacher and Cal.
Guy Reacher, got little glasses. He's got little glasses. Like he's doing the Dave Bautista. That's it. He's doing the Bautista.
Two, apparently good muscly dudes, good boy muscly dudes are in a movie together where they're fighting Nazis, right?
Little glasses.
Oh, I love him.
He's just got a big glasses.
Thank you, Reacher.
Love you, Reacher. And Jewel Ra with a €2 dono. Everyone is excited for Darren, as am I. Moi, woo.
I do also like the comment below from Damian Glenn saying that maybe the sexual predator is just a really horny alien from the movie Predator. Maybe that's
a sexual predator.
Yeah, there we go.
This is the little Marvin Gaye. I can get behind that. All right.
Now we're talking. All right.
Now we're talking. Excellent. That was our first episode of The Rewind. I'm very proud of all of us.
You can tell it's been a while since we've done a podcast together because we just went half hour overtime without breaking a sweat.
Yeah. And I forgot. I looked at Jack was I need to leave soon. I'm like, oh my God, how long has it been?
No, my blood sugar is spiking so much. My hands are shaking off camera. So it's just like, guys, we need to stop. I need to eat lunch.
Sorry. And also, we hit very few of the actual bullet points we said we would.
We skipped a lot of them. Yeah, we were going to do news, and we can't do news. There's no time for news. There's no time for news. There's no time for news.
But this was delightful. Yeah.
This was incredible. So Darren, where can folks find you? What should folks check out? Obviously, as we mentioned, your backdrop went up this morning.
Yes, I did. We did a little bonus episode. So Jesse and Omar have been doing like wonderful work editing the video series. That's given me time to do this bonus one. So like last week we did an episode covering House of the Dragon. Jesse edited that. Next week we'll do an episode covering The Boys. Omar will be editing that. But today I got to drop my episode looking at my trip to Cannes. So I take a look at like what is the Cannes Film Festival? What is it for? Who is it for? Like what movies show at it? And also just like my travelogue. What is it like to actually be there? An experiential kind of like what does it feel like to be at Cannes? I'm very proud of it. I think it's a nice video. I hope it conveys some sense of what it was.
It was
like
excellent. I loved watching it this morning. Yeah.
But yeah, so please check that out. And obviously, if you're on the Patreon, I do articles on Friday, Sunday, and Monday. So
yeah, that's for the $5 tier or above, and every once in a while we make one free. So your most recent
House of the Dragon
piece.
My hot take.
Very nice.
Your hot take. Hot D take. Batooch. Yeah, that's excellent. And Jack, what about you?
Marty and I will be back streaming one day later this week. We'll pick up a little Elden Ring. I have been playing Elden Ring off stream. I didn't defeat any bosses, but I've definitely just been wandering around and finding shit, which has been wonderful. And then, of course, Saturday, a new remaster of Adventure is Nigh. The pipeline is coming together. All the merchandise stuff is coming together. All the wonderful stuff that we've been talking about. It's all coming together as we also edit season 4. So, so many exciting things. Adventure is Nigh. Wise.
Hell yeah. And by one day later, you mean we're doing it Thursday at noon. Is that what we agreed on?
Sure. I forgot what we agreed on. Whatever we agreed on,
I think we agreed on Thursday at noon. Also, I found a perfect place for me to put my finger. I went to finger wag at you, and it was directly over my fan.
Oh,
it looks like I got like a cool fan finger. As for me, check out my novel, Cool Fan Finger. Being published by Random House this fall. No, check out all the normal great stuff we do. Later tonight, Will and Frost will be back at their normal 7 p.m. slot, and they will be streaming A Way Out on Better with Friends. And then we'll have our normal streams tomorrow, Fully Ramblemanic tomorrow, Yahtzee Tries, all the good stuff. So yeah, thank you all so much for tuning in. And as a reminder, this is an every other week podcast, so we won't be here next week. We'll be back the following week, and we'll see how, if folks are digging it, if we find a nice cadence, we have a nice bench, maybe someday we make this every week, but for now, every other week. But for Darren and Jack and Eric, thank you all so much for watching the Rewind episode number 1. Amazing to have you all here. So happy to be back, and we'll see you all next time.
Boom.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, guys.